When we think of life, our minds often drift toward forests of green trees, the oceans teeming with fish, or the quiet flutter of birds moving through the sky. We picture the visible world that surrounds us, filled with animals, plants, and landscapes that we can touch, see, and recognize. Yet, beneath this grand scenery lies another realm, invisible to the naked eye, where life thrives on a scale too small for us to perceive. This hidden realm belongs to bacteria and viruses, tiny entities that quietly shape our world in ways more profound than we usually imagine. To enter their secret life is to step into a universe of microscopic interactions, ancient origins, and delicate balances that sustain not only human beings but all of life on Earth. It is soothing to remember that these small beings have existed long before us, stretching back billions of years into the Earth's past. Bacteria were among the first living organisms to arise, simple in their structure yet astonishingly resilient. They witnessed the slow formation of continents, the rise of oceans, and the early breaths of the atmosphere. Their presence shaped the world itself, producing oxygen that allowed other forms of life to emerge. Viruses, though more mysterious, are just as ancient. They hover on the edge of life, not truly alive in the traditional sense, yet playing vital roles in evolution by moving genes from one host to another. Together, they weave an unseen thread through the fabric of existence, one that continues quietly even as we go about our daily lives. In our modern world, we often meet these beings through the lens of illness. We hear of bacterial infections that require antibiotics or viral outbreaks that spread quickly through populations. It is natural, then, to associate them with harm or discomfort. But if we pause, soften our gaze, and look deeper, we find that this picture is incomplete. For every harmful microbe, countless others live in harmony with us, supporting the balance of our bodies and the ecosystems we depend upon. They digest our food, recycle nutrients in the soil, and maintain the invisible equilibrium of the oceans. Without them, the grand invisible forms of life could not survive for long. Imagine standing in a quiet forest. The trees stretch upward, their leaves gathering sunlight, and the soil beneath your feet seems still and solid. Yet within that soil, billions of bacteria are at work, breaking down fallen leaves, turning them into nutrients that feed the roots, and maintaining the cycles of carbon and nitrogen that plants need to grow. Alongside them, viruses slip silently between hosts, shaping the populations of bacteria and fungi, ensuring that no single form dominates entirely. This unseen activity keeps the forest alive, though we rarely notice it. In this way, bacteria and viruses are not merely actors in the story of disease. They are the hidden caretakers of balance. To begin our gentle journey into their world, it helps to remember their scale. A single bacterium is smaller than a grain of dust, and a virus is even smaller still, so tiny that millions could rest on the head of a pin. Though they exist in multitudes too great to count, they do not make themselves known unless we look through the lens of a microscope. When magnified, however, their forms reveal an unexpected beauty. Bacteria appear as spheres, rods, or spirals, shapes that hint at their ways of living and moving. Viruses, with their geometric shells and intricate symmetry, resemble tiny crystals crafted with mathematical precision. This microscopic artistry reminds us that life's elegance is not confined to what we can see with our eyes, but is woven deep into the smallest corners of creation. As we listen softly to the story of these organisms, we find that their lives mirror the rhythms of the larger world. Bacteria grow and divide, multiplying rapidly in a steady cycle. Viruses, though unable to grow on their own, weave their existence into the lives of others, borrowing the machinery of cells to replicate themselves. This dance of dependence, survival, and adaptation has played out for billions of years, long before humans appeared. Over time, it has shaped the very path of evolution. In fact, Many of the features we see in life today are the result of ancient encounters with these unseen beings. Genes have crossed boundaries through viruses, and entire ecosystems have evolved through the silent work of bacteria. To some, this vast influence may seem unsettling. How can such tiny entities hold such power? Yet there is comfort in recognizing that their presence is not something new or threatening, but rather something that has always been. Long before the first forests stretched across the earth, before the first fish swam in the seas, bacteria and viruses were already here, guiding the flow of life in quiet ways. We are not their victims so much as their companions, sharing a planet and a history. Our bodies, too, are not separate from them. Each of us carries trillions of bacteria within us, forming what is known as the microbiome. These partners live on our skin, in our mouths, and especially in our intestines, where they help us digest food and even influence our health in subtle, ongoing ways. If you pause for a moment and breathe deeply, it is humbling to realize that every breath you take contains traces of bacteria and viruses. They drift through the air, float in droplets of water, and rest upon every surface. Far from being invaders, most of them exist without causing harm, some even providing benefits. It is as if the world is wrapped in a constant veil of microbial life, supporting the cycles that keep everything in motion. This is the hidden landscape that we rarely consider, yet it is always with us, as close as the air we inhale and the food we consume. In essence, the secret life of bacteria and viruses is not a story of enemies lurking in the dark, but a story of quiet, companionship, and balance. While some species do cause illness, they are but one part of a much larger picture. Just as night and day exist together, or silence and sound shape each other, so too do microbes bring both challenge and support to the living world. To understand them is to move past fear and into a deeper appreciation for the complexity of life. Their world may be invisible, but it is one we are never separate from. As you rest and let these thoughts settle, imagine drifting gently into that hidden realm. Picture a single droplet of water under the microscope, alive with tiny forms swimming, dividing, and shimmering. In that droplet, entire dramas of survival and cooperation play out, though too small for us to see without help. Now imagine that same activity multiplied across every river, every ocean, every cloud of air. That is the world of bacteria and viruses, quiet, constant, and infinitely vast in its smallness. In the chapters to come, we will wander further into their lives. We will look more closely at their structures, their ways of surviving, and the surprising gifts they offer to ecosystems and to us. But for now, it is enough to simply rest in the awareness that life's smallest forms carry some of its greatest secrets. They are not apart from the story of life. They are its foundation, and though we cannot see them as we close our eyes for sleep, they continue their endless work, softly guiding the rhythms of the world. 2. What are microbes? When we think of life on Earth, it is easy to imagine the large and visible forms first: animals walking across land, birds gliding through the sky, and forests stretching quietly over mountainsides. Yet the overwhelming majority of life is not visible at all. It belongs to the world of microbes, an entire universe of living things so small that we cannot see them with our eyes alone. To understand bacteria and viruses, it helps to first settle into the broader idea of microbes, for they are part of this hidden realm that silently supports, challenges, and shapes every other form of life. A microbe, in its simplest sense, is a microscopic organism. The word comes from roots that mean small life, and that is indeed what they are. Life too tiny to see without magnification. The group includes bacteria, archaea, fungi such as yeasts, tiny algae, and the enigmatic viruses. Among them, bacteria and viruses stand as two of the most fascinating and widely discussed, because their influence on both health and the natural world is immense. Though they are invisible, they are present everywhere. They drift through the air, cling to every surface, inhabit soil, water, and even the deepest layers of rock. They are in the food we eat, the breath we exhale, and the oceans that cover most of our planet. Without them, Earth would not be as we know it, and we ourselves would not exist at all. To understand what a microbe truly is, it helps to remember that life itself is organized around the idea of cells. Cells are the smallest units of life, capable of carrying out all the processes that define living things. They take in energy, use it to grow, respond to their surroundings, and reproduce themselves. Bacteria are living examples of this principle. They are single-celled organisms, meaning their entire existence is carried out within a single microscopic compartment. Despite their simplicity, they are complete living beings, with genetic material, protective walls, and the ability to move, divide, and adapt to changing environments. Every bacterium is, in essence, a full organism condensed into the smallest possible form. Viruses, on the other hand, are something different. They are often included when we speak of microbes, yet they do not fit neatly into the definition of life. A virus has genetic material, either DNA or RNA, wrapped inside a protein shell, and sometimes surrounded by an additional outer layer. But unlike bacteria, viruses do not carry out life's processes on their own. They cannot move independently, cannot take in nutrients, and cannot reproduce without help. Instead, they exist in a twilight zone between life and non-life, waiting until they enter a host cell. Only then do they come alive in a sense, hijacking the machinery of their host to copy themselves. For this reason, some scientists argue that viruses are not truly living, while others point out that their ability to evolve, adapt, and influence all of biology earns them a place within the story of life. This difference between bacteria and viruses is profound, but it also highlights why they are so closely studied together. Both are small, both interact with humans and other organisms, and both are ancient companions of life. To step back for a moment, imagine that all visible animals and plants were removed from Earth. What would remain would not be an empty world, but one teeming with microbes. Oceans would still be filled with bacterial and viral life. Soil would still harbor countless colonies of microscopic forms. Even in extreme places, such as boiling hot springs or the icy cores of glaciers, microbes would continue to persist. They define the limits of what life can endure, showing that survival is possible in conditions far beyond those that larger organisms could withstand. Microbes are sometimes described as the invisible majority. This phrase is not poetic exaggeration, but a reflection of sheer numbers. In a single teaspoon of soil, there may be more bacterial cells than there are people on Earth. In the oceans, viruses outnumber bacteria by an estimated factor of 10, making them the most abundant biological entities on the planet. Inside the human body, microbial cells are estimated to rival the number of human cells themselves, with trillions living on our skin, in our mouths, and throughout our intestines. This means that we are not only surrounded by microbes, but also partly composed of them. Our lives are inextricably intertwined with theirs, even if we never notice. Despite this immense abundance, microbes go mostly unnoticed because of their size. The average bacterium measures only a few micrometers across, and a virus can be 100 times smaller still. To give perspective, a single human hair is about 70 micrometers wide. Dozens of bacteria could line up side by side across its thickness, and 1,000 viruses could slip within the space of one bacterial cell. This invisibility explains why microbes were unknown to humans for most of history. It was not until the 17th century, when the first microscopes revealed tiny living forms in droplets of water, that the microbial world came into view. What had once been hidden suddenly became visible, and with it came the realization that life's smallest forms are also its most numerous. When we say microbes, it is important to remember that the term is broad. Not all microbes are harmful, and not all are helpful. They exist in a spectrum of roles. Some bacteria cause disease, but many more are neutral or even beneficial. They help digest food, produce vitamins, and train the immune system. They recycle nutrients in ecosystems, making sure that carbon, nitrogen, and other elements keep flowing. Viruses, too, play dual roles. Some cause sickness, but many regulate microbial populations, preventing certain species from overwhelming others. They are silent managers of balance, ensuring diversity in the microscopic world. To appreciate microbes, then, is to shift perspective. Rather than seeing them solely as threats, we can see them as essential partners. Without bacteria, plants could not grow as they do, animals could not survive on their diets, and ecosystems would falter. Without viruses, evolution would lack one of its major driving forces, for viruses shuffle genes across species in ways that create new traits and possibilities. What seems at first to be a shadowy or even frightening presence becomes, with gentler attention, an integral part of life's design. It is also worth reflecting on the intimacy of our relationship with microbes. Every breath carries a mixture of microscopic life. Every sip of water, no matter how pure, contains microbial traces. Even in sterile environments, bacteria and viruses find their way in, for life on Earth is never without them. This omnipresence is not cause for alarm, but a reminder of interconnectedness. The air, the soil, the oceans, and our very bodies all form part of a shared community, where microbes are not outsiders but foundational members. As we rest with this understanding, the distinction between bacteria and viruses begins to soften into a larger awareness that life, in all its forms, exists in a spectrum of size and complexity. Microbes show us that even the smallest entities can carry vast influence. They teach us that invisibility does not mean insignificance, and that the unseen often holds the deepest truths. In this way, bacteria and viruses are not just biological curiosities, but symbols of the hidden forces that shape the world around us. In the chapters to come, we will look more closely at their individual natures. We will see how bacteria build themselves from simple structures, and how viruses construct elegant shells to carry their genetic messages. We will explore how they interact with us, sometimes as friends, sometimes as foes, but always as quiet companions. For now, it is enough to recognize that when we speak of microbes, we are speaking of life's smallest forms, life that fills the air, the water, the soil, and our own bodies. They are the secret presence that sustains the visible world, and their story is, in truth, the story of life itself. 3. The structure of bacteria. When we picture bacteria, we may imagine them as vague specks or invisible dots floating in water or clinging to a surface. Yet behind this simplicity lies a design both efficient and elegant, a structure honed over billions of years of existence. To look closely at a bacterium is to see life reduced to its most fundamental elements, stripped of the complexity of larger organisms, yet perfectly suited to survival in almost every environment on Earth. The structure of bacteria is a quiet lesson in how something so small can endure across ages, adapting with flexibility, while maintaining a form that has changed little since life's earliest days. A bacterium is, above all, a single cell. Unlike the complex cells that make up plants and animals, bacterial cells lack the many compartments and specialized organelles that we often associate with life. Yet this simplicity is not a weakness, it is a strength. Within the small boundaries of a bacterial cell, all the machinery necessary for living, growing, and dividing is contained. Each part has its place, and together they create a self-sufficient organism. At the outermost edge, the bacterial cell is defined by its envelope. This envelope often consists of two layers, a cell wall and a plasma membrane. The plasma membrane is the thin, flexible boundary that separates the interior of the cell from the outside world. It is composed of a delicate double layer of lipids, molecules with watery heads and oily tails, that naturally arrange themselves into a barrier. This barrier does not merely contain the cell but also regulates the flow of materials in and out. Nutrients are brought inside, waste is expelled, and signals from the environment are sensed and responded to. In its quiet way, the membrane is both gatekeeper and communicator, ensuring that the bacterium remains in balance with the world around it. Outside this lies the cell wall, a rigid structure that gives bacteria their shape and protection. The cell wall is built from peptidoglycan, a sturdy mesh of sugars and amino acids that forms a kind of armor. In spherical bacteria, known as cocci, the wall creates a rounded form. In rod-shaped bacteria, or bacilli, it provides a long, slender outline. In spiral bacteria, the wall twists into corkscrew-like curves. These shapes are not random. They influence how bacteria move, attach to surfaces, and survive in different environments. The wall, though firm, is not inflexible. It allows the cell to withstand changes in pressure and to maintain integrity even in harsh conditions. Some bacteria have an additional layer outside the cell wall, called a capsule. This capsule is often made of sugars and provides a slimy, protective coating. It helps bacteria evade detection by immune systems, prevents drying out, and allows them to cling to surfaces. When you touch a smooth rock in a stream and feel a slippery film, you are sensing a community of bacteria encased in capsules, working together in what is known as a biofilm. This outer coating, though simple, allows bacteria to thrive in environments where they might otherwise be swept away or destroyed. Moving inward, the bacterial cell is filled with a substance known as cytoplasm. This is not an empty liquid, but a dense, watery environment rich with molecules and enzymes. Within the cytoplasm lies the bacterium's genetic material, usually in the form of a single circular chromosome made of DNA. This chromosome contains the instructions for building and maintaining the bacterium, the recipes for every protein and enzyme it requires. Unlike the DNA of more complex organisms, which is enclosed within a nucleus, bacterial DNA floats freely within the cytoplasm. This region, called the nucleoid, is not bounded by a membrane, yet it serves the same purpose: to hold the essence of the organism's identity and to guide its functions. Alongside the main chromosome, bacteria often carry smaller loops of DNA called plasmids. These plasmids are not essential for survival, but they provide useful extras. Some plasmids contain genes for antibiotic resistance, allowing bacteria to survive in the presence of drugs that would otherwise kill them. Others carry traits that help them metabolize unusual substances or defend against environmental challenges. Because plasmids can be exchanged between bacteria, they serve as a kind of shared library of traits, passed around in a quiet exchange that speeds adaptation. This ability to share genetic material is one reason bacteria have been so successful across Earth's history. Scattered throughout the cytoplasm are ribosomes, the tiny factories of the cell. Ribosomes read the genetic instructions carried in DNA and translate them into proteins, the workhorse molecules that carry out nearly every task. Proteins form enzymes, which catalyze chemical reactions. They form structural components, giving the cell shape, and they form channels in the membrane, helping the bacterium interact with its world. Without ribosomes, the genetic code would remain silent. With them, the bacterium becomes alive with constant activity, producing the tools it needs, moment by moment. Bacteria are also equipped with ways to move. Many species possess flagella, long whip-like structures that extend from the cell body. These flagella rotate like tiny propellers, pushing the bacterium forward through liquid. In some species, the movement is smooth and directed. In others, it comes in short runs, punctuated by tumbles, as the bacterium senses its environment and changes direction. This simple form of motion allows bacteria to swim toward nutrients or away from harmful substances, an elegant behavior that gives them a measure of control over their surroundings. Some bacteria also produce pili, thin, hair-like appendages that help them attach to surfaces or exchange plasmids with one another. These structures make bacteria not just passive inhabitants but active participants in their environments. Inside the cell, certain bacteria can also form endospores, a remarkable adaptation to survival. When conditions become harsh, such as extreme heat, dryness, or lack of nutrients, the bacterium can package its genetic material into a tough, resistant spore. In this dormant state, it can survive for years, even centuries, until favorable conditions return. Then the spore germinates, and the bacterium resumes life as though nothing had happened. This ability has allowed bacteria to endure through countless environmental shifts over Earth's history, surviving where other forms of life could not. Despite their simplicity, bacteria display a kind of quiet efficiency that larger organisms sometimes lack. Every part of their structure serves a purpose. There are no wasted compartments or unnecessary decorations. They are small, but within their walls, life unfolds continuously, with molecules colliding, genes being read, proteins being made, and signals being responded to. This constant hum of activity is invisible to us, but it is the foundation of all ecosystems. Bacteria cycle nutrients, produce oxygen, and maintain balances that allow forests, oceans, and even our own bodies to function. It is humbling to realize that structures so small carry such vast importance. A bacterium, only micrometers across, contains within it everything necessary for life. It grows, it divides, it adapts, and it survives. It interacts with its world not as a fragment but as a whole being. Though we cannot see its walls or its ribosomes, they are always there, working in silence. The simplicity of bacterial structure belies the depth of its influence, for in their modest design lies the blueprint for resilience, a form of life that has endured since the dawn of Earth and shows no sign of fading. As we continue, we will see how these structures give rise to diversity. We will explore how different shapes and arrangements of walls, membranes, and appendages allow bacteria to live in deserts, oceans, and even within our own bodies. We will discover how their smallness grants them flexibility, and how their design, though ancient, remains perfectly suited for the modern world. For now, as we rest with the picture of a monition, bacterium in mind, we can appreciate that its structure, though simple, is enough to carry the weight of survival across billions of years. 4. Shapes and diversity of bacteria. When we look at bacteria through the lens of a microscope, one of the first things we notice is their shape, though they are invisible to the naked eye. Under magnification, they reveal forms that are simple yet striking. Tiny spheres, elongated rods, gentle spirals, and more complex patterns that seem almost artistic in their arrangement. These shapes are not random. They are a product of structure, environment, and survival. They reflect how bacteria move, how they attach to surfaces, and how they interact with the world around them. In their variety of forms, bacteria demonstrate the subtle ways that simplicity can still produce great diversity. The most common bacterial shape is the sphere, known as coccus. These tiny round cells often appear singly, but they also gather in pairs, chains, or clusters, depending on how they divide and remain attached. A single coccus may seem plain, yet when grouped into patterns, they create arrangements as intricate as pearls on a string or grapes on a stem. Streptococcus, for instance, forms long chains of spheres, while Staphylococcus gathers in tight clusters that resemble small bunches. These patterns matter, not just for identification, but for function. A chain can move through tissues differently than a cluster, and a cluster may resist certain pressures that a lone sphere cannot. The sphere itself is efficient. It minimizes surface area compared to volume, conserving energy and allowing the bacterium to thrive in stable, nutrient-rich environments. Rod-shaped bacteria, called bacilli, are equally common. Their elongated forms stretch like tiny cylinders, giving them a greater surface area compared to their volume. This shape allows them to absorb nutrients efficiently and to move more easily through liquids. Some bacilli live alone, while others form chains of rods aligned side by side. Escherichia coli, often simply called E. coli, is a well-known example, living quietly in the intestines of humans and animals, where most strains are harmless and even beneficial. Bacilli are versatile in function, adapted to soil, water, and the bodies of larger organisms. Their form allows them to swim with flagella, moving like small torpedoes through their environments, seeking nutrients or new habitats. Another distinctive shape is the spiral. Spiral bacteria are called spirilla when their curves are rigid, and spirochetes when their spirals are flexible and more sinuous. Spirilla often resemble corkscrews, while spirochetes glide in graceful waves. These shapes are not merely decorative. They serve a purpose in movement. The spiral form allows bacteria to twist through viscous environments, such as mucus or dense liquids, where straight swimming would be inefficient. Spirochetes, such as the bacterium that causes Lyme disease, use their spiral motion to burrow through tissues, an ability that comes from their internal flagella coiling along the length of their cells. The spiral, elegant and simple, is an adaptation to environments where resistance is high, turning the challenge of thick surroundings into an opportunity for movement. Some bacteria take on less common but equally fascinating shapes. Vibrios are curved rods that resemble commas, with a gentle bend that gives them a distinctive appearance. Vibrio cholerae, known for causing cholera, is one such bacterium. Its shape helps it move efficiently in aquatic environments, gliding through water with speed. Then there are filamentous bacteria, which grow in long threads resembling strands of hair. These filaments can intertwine and create mats, often visible as the slimy films on rocks in streams or ponds. Square bacteria, though rare, have been discovered in salty lakes, their flat shapes fitting together like tiles in a mosaic. Star-shaped bacteria, too, exist, though they are less well known, forming delicate outlines that remind us of how varied and unexpected microbial life can be. These forms are shaped not only by genetics but also by environment. Bacteria adapt their structures to the conditions in which they live. In nutrient-rich environments, a spherical form may suffice, conserving energy with its simple geometry. In flowing waters, rods or spirals may offer greater efficiency, allowing bacteria to swim or cling against currents. In the human body, shapes influence how bacteria interact with tissues, whether attaching, burrowing, or floating freely. The diversity of form is therefore not accidental but a reflection of adaptation, each shape a quiet strategy for survival in a particular niche. It is also important to consider that bacteria rarely exist alone. In nature, they gather into communities where their shapes influence how they build structures together. In biofilms, for instance, rod-shaped bacteria may align side by side to form stable layers, while cocci cluster into dense aggregates. These communities coat surfaces from the insides of pipes to the enamel of teeth, where they create films that resist removal. The shape of each bacterium plays a role in the architecture of these hidden cities, determining how they fit together, how they channel nutrients, and how they protect one another from harm. When scientists classify bacteria, shape is one of the first features they consider. Under the microscope, the simple distinction between spheres, rods, and spirals provides an initial map of diversity. Yet classification goes further, combining shape with staining techniques, metabolic traits, and genetic analysis. Still, the basic forms remain a starting point, a reminder that even at the microscopic level, form and function are deeply connected. The elegance of a sphere, the efficiency of a rod, the grace of a spiral, all of these embody the principle that structure guides survival. The diversity of bacterial forms also reveals their universality. Wherever life can exist, some shape of bacterium is likely to be found. In the deep oceans, where sunlight never penetrates, filamentous bacteria cling to hydrothermal vents, drawing energy from chemicals instead of light. In the cold of polar ice, cocci persist, surviving in frozen films of water. In the heat of deserts, rods lie dormant as spores, waiting patiently for rare rains. In the human body, spirals and rods and spheres alike take their places, some assisting digestion, others causing illness, and many simply existing unnoticed. The variety of forms is endless, but each is connected by a shared design that allows them to thrive, where larger organisms cannot. As we reflect on the shapes of bacteria, we might imagine them as the alphabet of microbial life. Spheres, rods, spirals, commas, filaments, and stars form the letters. With these letters, nature has written countless stories across billions of years. Each shape is a tool, a strategy, a way of being. Each shape represents survival in a different context. From ocean to soil, from body to stone. Taken together, they remind us that diversity is not just about what we can see in forests or animals, but about what exists in the smallest, most hidden corners of the world. In the end, bacterial shapes are a gentle reflection of life's creativity. They show that even within simplicity, there is room for variety. They show that survival can be achieved through elegance, efficiency, and adaptation. And they show that the diversity of life does not begin with the large and visible, but with the smallest and unseen. As we continue on this journey, these forms will serve as companions, guiding us through the many ways bacteria live, interact, and persist. Though invisible, their shapes leave an imprint on the world, shaping not only their own survival, but the very foundations of ecosystems and of life itself. Number 5. The structure of viruses. When we enter the world of viruses, we step into a realm that seems to blur the line between life and non-life. Unlike bacteria, which are complete cells capable of growing, metabolizing, and reproducing on their own, viruses are far simpler, yet in some ways, far more mysterious. They cannot live independently, for they lack the machinery to carry out the processes of life. Instead, they exist as particles, waiting for the chance to enter a host cell. Once inside, they take control of that cell's machinery, transforming it into a factory that produces more viruses. To understand this unusual mode of existence, it helps to look closely at their structure, for the architecture of a virus holds the secret to its persistence. At the core of every virus lies its genetic material. This is the blueprint that directs the production of new viruses once a host cell is found. Unlike living cells, which almost always carry DNA as their genetic code, viruses may carry either DNA or RNA. Some are built around double-stranded DNA, a familiar form that resembles the genetic material of humans and bacteria alike. Others carry single-stranded DNA, a simpler arrangement. Many viruses, however, contain RNA, which can be either single-stranded or double-stranded. RNA viruses often mutate more quickly, giving them the ability to adapt rapidly to changing hosts and environments. This genetic material is small compared to that of cellular life, often containing only a few thousand bases instead of millions or billions. Yet within these tiny genomes lies all the information necessary to make new viruses. A compressed code that directs the assembly of proteins, the hijacking of cells, and the perpetuation of viral lineages across time. Surrounding this genetic core is the capsid, a protective shell made of proteins. The capsid is not random in its construction. It is built with precise symmetry, often forming geometric shapes of striking elegance. Many viruses take the form of icosahedrons, 20-sided figures that balance stability with efficiency. Others are helical, with their genetic material spiraling inside a long, rod-like protein sheath. Some viruses combine these forms, creating complex structures with both helical tails and geometric heads. The capsid's design is more than just beauty. It protects the fragile genetic material from the outside environment, shields it from damage, and ensures that the virus can survive the journey from one host to another. In some viruses, an additional layer surrounds the capsid, known as the envelope. This envelope is composed of lipids borrowed from the host cell's own membrane during the process of viral release. Studded within this membrane are viral proteins, often taking the form of spikes that extend outward like small keys. These spikes are crucial for infection, as they allow the virus to recognize, bind, and enter specific host cells. Each spike fits like a lock and key with receptors on the cell's surface, determining which organisms and which tissues a virus can infect. Without these proteins, the virus could not attach or penetrate, and its life cycle would come to an end. The envelope, then, is both disguise and weapon, cloaking the virus in familiar host material, while carrying the tools needed to gain entry into new cells. Not all viruses have envelopes. Those without are called naked viruses, relying solely on their capsid for protection and for interacting with host cells. Naked viruses are often more resistant to harsh environmental conditions, such as drying or acidic surroundings, since their protein shells are sturdy and self-sufficient. Enveloped viruses, while more fragile outside the body, possess greater flexibility in evading immune systems, for their host-derived membranes can help them blend in and avoid immediate detection. Each strategy reflects a different balance between resilience and subtlety, shaped by millions of years of adaptation. Though viruses are small, their structural variety is immense. Some are so tiny that only powerful electron microscopes can reveal their outlines. Others are surprisingly large, rivaling the size of small bacteria. These giant viruses, such as the mimivirus and pandoravirus, challenge the traditional view of what a virus is, with genomes and structures far more complex than once believed possible. They remind us that even within simplicity, nature finds ways to experiment with scale, creating forms that stretch the boundaries of definition. The structure of a virus is not merely static, it is designed with purpose, each part contributing to a cycle of infection. The genetic core holds instructions, the capsid protects and delivers. The envelope, when present, disguises and secures entry. Together, these components make viruses highly efficient. They do not waste energy or space on anything unnecessary. They carry only what is essential for survival between hosts and for hijacking the machinery of cells. In this sense, viruses are minimalists of biology, their pared-down design representing the bare essentials of persistence. Despite this minimalism, viruses are not passive. Their structures allow them to interact with the world in powerful ways. A single mutation in a surface protein can change which species a virus can infect or how easily it spreads. The elegance of their architecture, coupled with the mutability of their genetic material, gives them the ability to adapt with remarkable speed. This is why viruses appear again and again across history in different forms, some becoming long-term companions of humans and animals, others arising suddenly as new threats. Their structures are simple, yet within that simplicity lies great potential for change. In addition to their genetic cores and protective shells, viruses sometimes carry enzymes tucked inside their capsids. These enzymes help them initiate infection once they reach a host cell. For instance, retroviruses like HIV carry reverse transcriptase, an enzyme that converts their RNA genome into DNA once inside the host. This allows them to insert their code directly into the host genome, ensuring that they are copied whenever the host cell divides. Other viruses carry enzymes that help them break down cell walls or membranes, clearing the way for entry. These additions, though small, give viruses specialized tools that enhance their ability to survive and replicate. The simplicity and beauty of viral structures have long fascinated scientists. Under an electron microscope, viruses resemble jewels, with their geometric precision and delicate outlines. They remind us that even the smallest forms of life, or lifelike entities, carry an artistry shaped by natural forces. Their symmetry reflects the efficiency of evolution, finding the most stable and resourceful designs again and again. And yet, behind this elegance lies a hidden reality, that these structures are built not for beauty but for persistence, for the quiet continuation of viral existence across generations. As we rest with the image of a virus in mind, we can appreciate its quiet efficiency, a core of genetic material, a protective shell, sometimes a cloak, borrowed from a host, all arranged in forms both delicate and enduring. They are not alive in the way we are alive, yet their structures allow them to shape life itself, influencing evolution, ecosystems, and human history. In their simplicity lies great power, and in their hidden designs lies a reminder that even the smallest entities can leave the deepest marks upon the world. 6. How bacteria live and reproduce. To begin to understand the life of bacteria, it is useful to imagine them not as distant abstractions, but as active beings carrying out the processes of existence in miniature. Each bacterium, though only a single cell, carries with it everything it needs to sustain life. It absorbs nutrients, transforms them into energy, responds to its surroundings, and most importantly, it multiplies. The way bacteria live and reproduce is both remarkably simple and astonishingly effective, a strategy that has allowed them to persist on Earth for billions of years. Their methods remind us that life does not need complexity to endure, it needs only efficiency and adaptability. At the heart of bacterial living is metabolism. Just as humans consume food and convert it into energy, bacteria must gather resources from their environments to sustain themselves. They do this in many different ways, reflecting the great diversity of habitats in which they are found. Some bacteria are autotrophic, meaning they can produce their own food. Among them are photosynthetic bacteria, which use sunlight to generate energy, much like plants. Cyanobacteria, for example, were among the first organisms to release oxygen into the atmosphere, fundamentally changing the course of Earth's history. Others are chemosynthetic, drawing energy from chemical reactions involving substances like sulfur or iron, thriving in environments as extreme as hydrothermal vents at the bottom of the sea. Many bacteria are heterotrophic, meaning they must consume organic molecules from their surroundings. They break down sugars, proteins, and other compounds, turning them into usable energy. In doing so, they also recycle matter, decomposing dead organisms and returning nutrients to the soil or the ocean. Some bacteria prefer oxygen for these processes, relying on it to generate energy efficiently. These are known as aerobic bacteria. Others can live without oxygen, carrying out their metabolism through anaerobic pathways. Some species can even shift between the two modes, depending on what conditions allow. This flexibility is one of the secrets of bacterial success, enabling them to adapt to diverse and changing environments. As bacteria go about their lives, they also interact with one another and with the larger world. They form communities, such as biofilms, where millions of cells cluster together in protective layers. In these communities, bacteria share nutrients, protect each other from threats, and even communicate through chemical signals. This communication, known as quorum sensing, allows them to coordinate behavior, such as when to produce toxins or when to form protective coatings. Though each bacterium is small and simple, together they act as a collective, making decisions that increase their chances of survival. Central to bacterial life, however, is reproduction. Unlike more complex organisms, which rely on mating and the combination of genetic material from two parents, bacteria reproduce asexually, most often through a process called binary fission. In binary fission, a bacterium grows until it reaches a certain size, then copies its DNA, and finally divides into two daughter cells. Each daughter cell is essentially a clone of the original, carrying the same genetic instructions. The process is straightforward, efficient, and fast. Under ideal conditions, some bacteria can divide every 20 minutes, producing exponential growth. A single bacterium could, in theory, give rise to billions of descendants within a day if resources were unlimited. Of course, in nature, resources are not unlimited, and conditions are rarely ideal. Still, the speed of bacterial reproduction ensures that populations can rise quickly when circumstances are favorable. This rapid growth also means that mutations, small changes in DNA, can spread swiftly. Though most mutations may have little effect, some provide advantages, such as resistance to antibiotics or the ability to digest new substances. In this way, bacterial populations adapt quickly, evolving at a pace that far exceeds that of larger organisms. In addition to binary fission, bacteria have other ways of exchanging genetic material, which further increases their adaptability. Through a process called conjugation, one bacterium can transfer a plasmid, a small, circular piece of DNA, to another. This exchange is often facilitated by pili, hair-like structures that connect the two cells. In transformation, bacteria can take up fragments of DNA from their surroundings, incorporating them into their own genomes. And in transduction, viruses that infect bacteria, known as bacteriophages, carry genetic material from one bacterium to another. These methods do not involve reproduction in the traditional sense, but they allow bacteria to share useful traits quickly, spreading adaptations across entire populations. The life of a bacterium, then, is not just a cycle of division, but also one of exchange and adaptation. Each cell is both an individual and part of a greater network, participating in the flow of genetic information that shapes microbial communities. This constant sharing contributes to the resilience of bacterial life, ensuring that even in the face of antibiotics, environmental changes, or natural predators, some individuals will carry the traits needed to persist. It is also important to recognize the endurance strategies bacteria have evolved for times when conditions are harsh. Some bacteria can enter dormant states, forming tough structures called endospores that encase their genetic material in protective shells. These spores can survive extreme heat, radiation, desiccation, and lack of nutrients, waiting patiently until conditions improve. When they do, the spores awaken, returning to active life and resuming reproduction. This capacity for dormancy allows bacteria to endure across centuries, surviving events that would wipe out other forms of life. To reflect on how bacteria live and reproduce is to see a picture of persistence painted in the smallest of strokes. They grow, divide, share, adapt, and endure, all within the confines of a single cell. Their lives may be simple in design, but they are rich in consequence. Without bacterial living and reproduction, ecosystems would collapse, nutrients would not be recycled, and oxygen would not have filled the atmosphere billions of years ago. Even within our own bodies, their cycles of growth and division sustain balance, helping us digest food, produce vitamins, and ward off harmful invaders. As we drift deeper into this quiet understanding, it becomes clear that bacteria embody life at its most essential. They are minimal yet complete, fragile yet enduring, simple yet capable of great complexity. When seen as populations, their way of living is not just survival, but a constant reminder that existence does not require grandeur to be effective. It requires adaptability, community, and continuity. Through binary fission, through genetic exchange, and through the quiet hum of metabolism, bacteria carry out a story of life that is as old as Earth itself and as persistent as time. How viruses infect and multiply. To truly understand viruses, we must see them not only as still particles drifting in the air, water, or body, but as dynamic beings whose life cycles depend entirely on the cells they invade. Unlike bacteria, which can survive and reproduce independently, viruses cannot carry out the functions of life on their own. They are, in a sense, inert until they encounter a suitable host. Once they do, however, they spring into action, using the host's machinery to replicate themselves. This process of infection and multiplication is at once simple and intricate, a series of steps that have unfolded for billions of years and continue every moment around us in silence. It begins with recognition. A virus must first identify a host cell that it can enter. This recognition is not conscious but guided by molecular compatibility. Proteins on the surface of the virus fit into receptors on the surface of the cell, much like a key fitting into a lock. Each virus has specific proteins that determine which species and which tissues it can infect. For example, some viruses may only infect plants, others animals, and within animals, some target the liver, while others target the lungs. This specificity explains why many viruses affect only certain hosts, and why some cannot cross from one species to another without changes to their surface structures. Once recognition occurs, the virus attaches firmly to the cell. This attachment is the first crucial step in infection, binding the virus to its host like a visitor knocking at a door. But the virus does not simply remain outside. It must gain entry. Different viruses achieve this in different ways. Some inject their genetic material directly through the cell's membrane, leaving their protein shells behind. Others, especially those with envelopes, fuse with the cell membrane, blending their outer layer with that of the host and releasing their genetic contents inside. Some viruses are engulfed entirely by the cell in a process known as endocytosis, after which they release their genetic material from within. No matter the method, the result is the same. The virus has breached the barrier, and its code is now inside the host. Once inside, the viral genome takes over. It does not waste time. Depending on whether the virus carries DNA or RNA, the strategy varies, but the goal is always to make copies. DNA viruses often travel to the nucleus of the host cell, where the cell's own machinery reads and replicates DNA. RNA viruses may remain in the cytoplasm, using special enzymes to replicate their RNA directly, or to create a DNA copy that can be inserted into the host's genome. Retroviruses, like HIV, are examples of the latter, carrying the enzyme reverse transcriptase to transform their RNA into DNA and integrate it permanently into the host's chromosomes. Once integrated, the viral DNA becomes part of the host's genetic fabric, copied each time the cell divides. In this way, viruses blur the boundary between self and other, embedding their presence within the very code of their hosts. The next stage is expression. Viral genes direct the host's ribosomes to produce viral proteins. These proteins form the building blocks of new viral particles: capsid proteins for protection, enzymes for replication, and sometimes spikes for recognition. At the same time, the host cell produces copies of the viral genome, preparing the instructions that will be packaged inside each new virus. The cell's own functions are gradually diverted, no longer serving its needs but those of its uninvited guest. In some cases, the cell continues to survive for a time, quietly producing viral components. In others, it is overwhelmed, its resources consumed by the flood of replication. Once enough proteins and genomes have been made, the assembly begins. Viral components self-organize, guided by chemical affinities that bring them together into complete particles. The genome is enclosed within the capsid, and if the virus has an envelope, it buds through the host's membrane, taking with it a cloak of lipids studded with viral proteins. Thousands of new viruses may form within a single cell, each one a mirror of the original particle that began the cycle. Finally comes release. In some cases, viruses exit gently, budding off from the cell one by one, while leaving the host alive to continue producing more. In other cases, the process is violent. The cell fills with viruses until it bursts, a process called lysis, releasing a flood of particles into the surrounding environment. Each particle is now ready to seek out a new host, repeating the cycle again. This destruction of cells explains many of the symptoms of viral disease. When viruses kill or disrupt cells in tissues such as the lungs, intestines, or nervous system, the body responds with inflammation, fever, or pain. These symptoms are not caused by the viruses alone, but by the body's attempts to defend itself against invasion. Not all viruses, however, immediately destroy their hosts. Some enter a quieter path known as latency or the lysogenic cycle. In this mode, the viral genome integrates into the host's DNA but remains dormant, not producing new viruses right away. The host cell continues to divide, unknowingly passing the viral code to its descendants. Under certain triggers, the dormant virus may awaken, entering the active cycle of replication and release. Herpesviruses are examples of this pattern, lying silent for months or years before re-emerging. This ability to hide within the host ensures long-term survival, allowing viruses to persist even when conditions for spread are unfavorable. The efficiency of viral infection is striking. With only a handful of genes and a simple structure, viruses manage to exploit the complex machinery of cells, turning them into engines of replication. They do not need to carry the burdens of metabolism, energy production, or cellular repair, because their hosts provide all of this. They are, in essence, perfect parasites, streamlined to do one thing: to multiply, and in this singular purpose, they succeed with extraordinary effectiveness. From a broader perspective, the way viruses infect and multiply has shaped the course of life on Earth. By inserting their genetic material into host genomes, they have moved genes across species, accelerating evolution, and introducing new traits. Some of the DNA in human chromosomes, in fact, originates from ancient viral insertions, long since domesticated into useful functions. Placental development in mammals, for example, depends on a gene that began as a viral sequence. Thus, viruses are not only agents of disease, but also hidden contributors to the very fabric of life. As we reflect on this process, it is important to remember that what may seem destructive on one level can also serve a purpose in the grander balance. Viruses regulate populations of bacteria in the oceans, ensuring diversity and preventing any one group from overwhelming the ecosystem. They influence the evolution of plants, animals, and microbes alike, and though they cause illness, they also remind us of the interconnectedness of life, the way in which even the smallest particle can ripple through the vast web of existence. To picture a virus infecting a cell is to imagine a quiet yet relentless cycle. A particle attaches, enters, and disappears within the host, only to emerge multiplied many times over. The host cell, whether destroyed or altered, becomes part of the process. The cycle repeats endlessly, across countless hosts, in every corner of the earth. It is a rhythm of persistence, an ancient dance of code and structure, shaping the world in ways too small to see yet too important to ignore. 8. Bacteria in the human body. To think of the human body is often to imagine it as a single, unified being. We picture ourselves as individuals, self-contained and distinct from the world around us. Yet in truth, each of us is not one life form but a community, a living landscape inhabited by trillions of bacterial companions. These microbes are so numerous that their cells nearly match, and in some estimates outnumber, our own human cells. They live on our skin, in our mouths, throughout our digestive systems, and in nearly every corner of our bodies where life can safely dwell. They are not intruders but partners, forming what is known as the microbiome, a hidden ecosystem that sustains and shapes our health in ways both obvious and subtle. The most significant gathering place for these bacteria is the digestive tract. Within the folds of the intestines, billions upon billions of bacteria thrive, forming dense communities that help process the food we eat. Without them, many nutrients would remain locked away, unavailable to our bodies. They break down complex carbohydrates, producing short-chain fatty acids that nourish the cells lining the colon. They synthesize vitamins such as vitamin K and certain B vitamins, adding to our nutritional balance. In this way, the bacteria of the gut act almost like an organ of their own, a living extension of our digestive system, carrying out tasks that human enzymes alone cannot manage. This microbial population is not random. Different parts of the digestive system harbor different communities, each adapted to the environment it inhabits. In the mouth, bacteria colonize the teeth and gums, forming biofilms that we know as dental plaque. Though some of these species can cause cavities when unchecked, many exist peacefully, contributing to the balance of oral health. In the stomach, where acidity is high, fewer bacteria survive, yet certain species have adapted to thrive even there. In the intestines, where conditions are more favorable, diversity blooms, with hundreds of species living side by side in complex networks of cooperation and competition. The balance of this community is crucial. When beneficial bacteria are plentiful, they help protect against harmful invaders by outcompeting them for space and resources. They also interact with the immune system, training it to recognize friend from foe and to respond appropriately. Studies have shown that the microbiome influences not only digestion and immunity, but also metabolism and even mood, suggesting a link between gut bacteria and brain function. This connection, often referred to as the gut-brain axis, highlights the surprising depth of our relationship with these unseen partners. Their presence shapes not only the body but the mind, weaving themselves into the very fabric of who we are. Beyond the gut, bacteria inhabit the skin, forming protective layers that defend against pathogens and help regulate conditions such as moisture and pH. On the skin's surface, different regions host different microbial communities. The oily environment of the forehead supports species unlike those found on the dry skin of the forearm or the humid folds of the armpits. These bacteria act as a shield, preventing harmful organisms from taking hold, while also contributing to the skin's natural balance. Though we often think of cleanliness as the absence of microbes, in reality our skin's health depends on the presence of its resident bacteria. In the respiratory tract, too, bacteria live quietly, coexisting with us in ways we rarely notice. In healthy states, These bacteria contribute to balance, helping the body resist infections. Similarly, the urinary and reproductive systems harbor their own microbiomes, each shaped by unique conditions, and each contributing to overall well-being. These bacterial populations interact not only with us but with each other, forming a vast network of microbial life that stretches throughout the body, invisible yet essential. The relationship between humans and bacteria is not always peaceful. Some bacterial species can cause disease, leading to infections of the skin, lungs, or bloodstream. Yet even here, context matters. Many bacteria that are harmless in one part of the body may cause illness if they move to another. For example, bacteria that live peacefully in the intestines may cause problems if they enter the bloodstream or urinary tract. The distinction between helpful and harmful is not always fixed, but depends on balance, location, and circumstance. The influence of bacteria on human health extends even to development. From birth, bacteria begin shaping our bodies. Newborns acquire microbes during delivery, through contact with the mother and the environment. These early colonizers set the stage for the development of the immune system, guiding it as it learns to recognize and tolerate beneficial species while defending against harmful ones. As children grow, their microbiomes shift, influenced by diet, environment, and exposure. By adulthood, a relatively stable community is established, though it continues to change in response to lifestyle, illness, and age. One of the most remarkable aspects of the human microbiome is its individuality. No two people share exactly the same composition of bacterial species. Each person carries a microbial signature shaped by genetics, diet, geography, and countless experiences. This uniqueness makes the microbiome almost like a fingerprint, a record of one's life, written in microscopic form. And yet, despite the differences, common patterns exist, shared functions that ensure the microbiome as a whole supports the health of its host. In times of imbalance, when beneficial bacteria are reduced or harmful ones take over, problems can arise. Antibiotics, while life-saving, can disrupt the microbiome by killing not only disease-causing bacteria but also helpful species. This disruption can lead to digestive issues or increased susceptibility to infections. In some cases, restoring balance may involve the careful use of probiotics, foods, or supplements that introduce beneficial bacteria, or prebiotics, nutrients that feed them. These approaches reflect a growing recognition of the microbiome's role, treating it not as an incidental presence but as a partner in health. The story of bacteria in the human body is therefore one of companionship. They are not simply passengers but participants, contributing to digestion, immunity, development, and protection. They shape our biology from birth to death, adapting with us as we change, and reminding us that individuality extends beyond human cells alone. To be human is to be more than one being. It is to be an ecosystem, a collection of lives living in harmony, balance, and constant interaction. As we rest with this thought, it is humbling to realize how dependent we are on creatures so small that we cannot see them. They form the hidden foundation of our health, working silently in every breath, every meal, and every heartbeat. Their lives are woven into ours so deeply that to imagine ourselves without them is to imagine a world that could not exist. They are our unseen companions, our protectors, and our partners, dwelling in the quiet spaces of the body and ensuring that life, in all its complexity, continues. 9. Viruses in the human body. To imagine viruses within the human body is to enter a realm both unsettling and fascinating. Unlike bacteria, which live as residents and partners in our internal ecosystems, viruses do not dwell in us in quite the same way. They are not companions in the traditional sense, but opportunists that require our cells to survive and multiply. Yet the story of viruses in the human body is not only one of disease, it is also a story of coexistence, of ancient influences that have shaped our evolution, and of quiet presences that sometimes remain long after an infection has passed. To see viruses in their fullness, we must look beyond fear and begin to understand the subtle ways they inhabit us, both as invaders and as unlikely contributors to the human story. When a virus enters the body, the journey begins with a quiet encounter. Perhaps it is breathed in with a droplet of air, swallowed with a sip of water, or carried in through a small break in the skin. The virus drifts until it finds the type of cell it is designed to infect. This specificity is striking. Some viruses target the lining of the respiratory tract, while others focus on the liver, the intestines, or the immune system itself. Once the viral particle binds to its chosen cell, it releases its genetic material inside, and the cell's machinery becomes devoted to the task of making more viruses. In this way, an infection begins not with an overwhelming force, but with the quiet takeover of individual cells, one by one. The effects of this process can be mild, moderate, or severe, depending on the virus and the host. Common viruses, such as those causing colds, often result in temporary discomfort, congestion, coughing, fatigue. These symptoms, though unpleasant, are partly the body's own defense, the immune system working to expel or contain the invader. Other viruses, such as influenza, strike more forcefully, causing high fevers and aches as the body launches a stronger response. Still others, like hepatitis viruses, may linger in the body, slowly damaging tissues over time. Each virus writes its own pattern of interaction with the human body, shaped by its structure, its genetic material, and the defenses it encounters. Yet not all viral encounters are destructive. Some viruses infect without causing noticeable illness, passing through the body quietly before fading away. Others establish persistent infections, remaining in cells for years without causing obvious harm. Herpes viruses are a well-known example, capable of lying dormant within nerve cells and re-emerging when conditions trigger them. This ability to remain hidden allows them to survive across a lifetime, weaving themselves into the ongoing fabric of human biology. In this sense, viruses are not only temporary visitors but sometimes long-term inhabitants, their genetic presence integrated into our own. This integration can go even deeper. Throughout human evolution, viruses have left their mark on our very genomes. Segments of viral DNA, once inserted during ancient infections, remain embedded in human chromosomes to this day. These remnants, known as endogenous retroviruses, make up a surprising portion of our DNA. Though most are inactive fragments, some have been repurposed by the body for new functions. One such viral gene plays a role in the development of the placenta, enabling mammals to nourish offspring within the womb. In this way, viruses that once invaded have become part of what makes us human, leaving behind gifts that altered the course of our evolution. The relationship between viruses and the immune system is also deeply interwoven. Each viral encounter trains the immune system, teaching it to recognize patterns and to respond more effectively in the future. After recovering from an infection, the body often retains a memory of the virus, held by specialized immune cells that can respond swiftly if the same invader returns. This memory forms the basis of long-term immunity, a natural protection that can last for years or even a lifetime. Vaccines harness this principle by introducing harmless versions of viruses or their components, allowing the immune system to prepare without experiencing illness. Thus, viruses, though often harmful, have also provided humans with the opportunity to develop stronger and more resilient defenses. Inside the human body, viruses also interact indirectly with the bacteria that live within us. Bacteriophages, viruses that infect bacteria, are present in large numbers in the gut. These phages help regulate bacterial populations, preventing certain strains from becoming dominant. They shape the balance of the microbiome, which in turn influences digestion, immunity, and health. In this way, even viruses that never infect human cells directly still contribute to the overall environment of the body, quietly guiding the equilibrium of our internal ecosystems. It is important to recognize that viruses are not uniformly negative in their effects. While many cause disease, some play roles that benefit humans in subtle ways. Phage therapy, for example, makes use of bacteriophages to target harmful bacteria, offering alternatives to antibiotics. Research has also explored how certain viral infections may train the immune system in ways that reduce the risk of autoimmune diseases. Though the evidence is still emerging, these examples suggest that viruses, like bacteria, can be part of a larger balance, sometimes adversaries, sometimes unexpected allies. Still, the presence of viruses in the human body is not without challenges. Their ability to mutate quickly allows them to adapt to immune defenses, re-emerge in new forms, and sometimes cross from animals to humans. This constant change requires vigilance, as new strains of familiar viruses appear over time. Yet even in this, there is a kind of natural rhythm. The body adapts, science responds, and the cycle of interaction continues between humans and the viral world. To think of viruses in the human body is to recognize both vulnerability and resilience. On one hand, they remind us of the fragility of life, of how something so small can disrupt the function of entire organs and systems. On the other hand, they remind us of the adaptability of our biology, of the immune system's capacity to learn, remember, and protect. They also remind us of the interconnectedness of life, of how ancient viral insertions still echo in our genes, shaping our development and even our ability to reproduce. As we drift in thought toward rest, we can imagine the human body as a vast landscape. Within it, bacteria form bustling cities of mutual cooperation, while viruses move more quietly, slipping into cells and replicating in hidden cycles. Some leave quickly, others remain, and still others have long since fused with our very DNA. Together, they form part of the invisible story of what it means to be alive. They are not separate from us, but written into our existence, both as challengers and as contributors. In their presence, we see that the human body is not a fortress apart, but an open system, connected to the microbial and viral worlds that surround it. To rest with this awareness is to find a measure of peace in the complexity. Viruses are not merely enemies. They are part of the long history of life, part of the ongoing balance of existence. They remind us that, even in the smallest and most hidden forms, life finds ways to persist, to adapt, and to leave its mark. Within our bodies, they continue this story, shaping us in ways we often do not notice, but which are essential to who we are. 10. Bacteria in nature and ecosystems. When we step back from the human body and look outward into the wider world, bacteria reveal themselves not only as intimate companions, but as architects of ecosystems. They are everywhere, in soil, in water, in the air, and even in environments that seem too extreme for life. Though unseen, their work sustains the cycles that allow plants to grow, animals to thrive, and entire ecosystems to endure. Without bacteria, the Earth would not resemble the planet we know. They are the silent caretakers of balance, tirelessly maintaining the rhythms of life across forests, oceans, deserts, and mountains. Consider the soil beneath our feet. To the eye, it appears lifeless, a mixture of earth and rock, but in reality it is a bustling world of microbial activity. A single handful of soil contains billions of bacteria, each playing a role in the recycling of nutrients. They decompose organic matter, breaking down fallen leaves, dead plants, and animal remains into simpler compounds. These compounds are released back into the soil, enriching it and making nutrients available for new life. This process, known as decomposition, is the foundation of fertility. Without it, nutrients would remain locked in dead material, and ecosystems would quickly run out of the resources needed to sustain growth. Among the most important contributions of bacteria in soil is their role in the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen is an essential element for proteins and DNA, yet most organisms cannot use the abundant nitrogen gas that fills the atmosphere. Certain bacteria, however, possess the ability to fix nitrogen, transforming it into forms that plants can absorb through their roots. These nitrogen-fixing bacteria often live in partnership with plants, such as legumes, forming nodules on their roots where the exchange takes place. The bacteria gain sugars and a safe habitat from the plant, while the plant receives usable nitrogen, enabling it to grow in soils that might otherwise be poor in nutrients. This quiet partnership underlies agriculture and natural ecosystems alike, sustaining the growth of forests, grasslands, and crops. Bacteria are also central to the carbon cycle, which governs the flow of this element through life and the environment. By decomposing organic matter, bacteria release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which plants then use in photosynthesis to produce energy. Some bacteria also participate directly in carbon fixation, capturing carbon dioxide and storing it in organic compounds. In aquatic environments, cyanobacteria perform this role on a massive scale, absorbing sunlight and producing oxygen while drawing carbon dioxide from the water. These processes help regulate the climate, linking the microscopic activities of bacteria to the planetary systems that sustain all life. In the oceans, bacteria are even more abundant and diverse. They exist in every layer, from the sunlit surface waters to the dark depths of the seafloor. Some drift freely as plankton, forming the base of marine food webs. Others colonize particles, corals, or hydrothermal vents, where they derive energy from chemical reactions rather than sunlight. These chemosynthetic bacteria use sulfur, iron, or methane as sources of energy, supporting unique communities of organisms in places where no plants can survive. Around hydrothermal vents, for example, bacteria form the foundation of ecosystems that include giant tube worms, clams, and crabs. Without the bacterial capacity to transform inorganic chemicals into organic energy, these strange and vibrant worlds would not exist. Bacteria also regulate the balance of life in the oceans through their interactions with other microorganisms. They recycle nutrients by breaking down the remains of plankton, keeping essential elements like nitrogen and phosphorus available for reuse. They also release gases that influence cloud formation and climate patterns, linking the smallest organisms with the vast processes of weather and atmosphere. Viruses, which infect marine bacteria, further shape these dynamics, ensuring diversity by preventing any single group from dominating. Together, bacteria and viruses orchestrate the hidden rhythms of the sea, sustaining life on a scale that stretches far beyond human imagination. In deserts and other extreme environments, bacteria again demonstrate their resilience. They survive in hot springs, polar ice, salt flats, and volcanic soils, adapting to conditions of heat, cold, dryness, and salinity that would destroy most other organisms. These extremophiles reveal the extraordinary versatility of bacterial life, showing that the boundaries of habitability are far broader than once thought. They also play roles in shaping their environments, weathering rocks, cycling nutrients, and forming the foundation of food webs in places where visible plants and animals are scarce. Their persistence suggests that wherever conditions allow, even faintly, bacteria will find a way to live, quietly sustaining ecosystems at the margins of possibility. Bacteria also influence larger organisms in the natural world in subtle ways. On plant surfaces, they form protective films that deter pathogens and enhance growth. In the roots of trees, They form partnerships with fungi and plants, creating networks that transport nutrients across the soil. In animals, they colonize skin, fur, feathers, and digestive tracts, aiding in processes that the host cannot manage alone. These relationships blur the line between individual and community, reminding us that no organism exists in isolation. Every plant and animal carries with it an invisible entourage of bacteria that contribute to its survival. Even the air around us carries bacterial life. Dust particles, water droplets, and pollen grains all serve as carriers for microbes, which drift through the atmosphere across continents and oceans. Though their numbers are lower in the air than in soil or water, they still play roles in processes such as cloud formation and precipitation. Some bacteria can act as nuclei for ice crystals, helping to trigger rain or snow. In this way, bacterial life extends its influence into the skies, linking the microscopic with the meteorological, the invisible with the tangible. The ecological importance of bacteria can also be felt in human activities. Agriculture, for example, depends on bacterial processes to enrich soils and recycle nutrients. Fermentation, guided by specific bacterial species, produces foods such as yogurt, cheese, and pickles, as well as beverages like wine and beer. Waste treatment relies on bacteria to break down organic matter, purifying water and reducing pollution. These uses are not separate from natural ecosystems, but rather extensions of bacterial abilities that humans have learned to harness. They remind us that bacteria are not only part of wild environments, but also active participants in the systems we build. To contemplate bacteria in nature is to see them as the quiet foundation of ecosystems. They recycle, transform, and sustain, often without notice. They are not grand in appearance, nor loud in their presence, but their work is constant and indispensable. Without them, nutrients would stall, cycles would break, and life would collapse under the weight of its own remains. With them, ecosystems flourish, climates stabilize. As we imagine the natural world at rest, the forest at dusk, the ocean at calm, the desert under stars, we can know that beneath these still surfaces, bacterial life is always active. In the soil, in the sea, in the air, and even in stone, bacteria carry out their endless cycles, unseen but essential. They remind us that the vitality of nature does not begin with what we can see, but with what lies beneath, too small to notice yet too great to ignore. Their presence is the foundation upon which the visible world rests, the hidden scaffolding of life itself. 11. Viruses in ecosystems. When we think of viruses, it is natural to picture them as threats to health, as causes of disease that spread silently through human populations, or disrupt the lives of animals and plants. Yet in the wider view of nature, viruses are not merely destructive agents. They are also key players in ecosystems, shaping populations, guiding the flow of nutrients, and influencing the balance of life on Earth in profound and subtle ways. Though they are not alive in the traditional sense, their presence is felt everywhere, from the depths of the oceans to the soil beneath our feet, from the air we breathe to the forests that stretch across continents. To understand ecosystems without acknowledging viruses would be to leave out one of their most important architects. In the oceans, viruses are extraordinarily abundant. They are, in fact, the most numerous biological entities on the planet, with estimates suggesting that a single liter of seawater contains billions of viral particles. These viruses primarily target bacteria and other microorganisms, infecting them and eventually causing their cells to burst open in a process known as lysis. This constant cycle of infection and destruction plays a vital role in marine ecosystems. By breaking down microbial cells, viruses release nutrients such as carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus back into the water, where they can be taken up again by other microorganisms, including phytoplankton. Phytoplankton, in turn, form the base of the ocean food web, supporting fish, whales, and countless other species. In this way, viruses indirectly fuel the productivity of the seas, maintaining the cycles that sustain marine life. This process, often called the viral shunt, prevents nutrients from sinking into the deep ocean in the form of dead organic matter. Instead, viruses keep these nutrients circulating in the upper layers, where sunlight allows photosynthesis to occur. The impact is immense. For phytoplankton, not only feed ocean ecosystems, but also produce much of the oxygen in Earth's atmosphere. By recycling nutrients through microbial destruction, viruses help regulate the balance of gases that support life on a global scale. They are silent custodians of planetary health. Their invisible work tied to the breath of every living being. Viruses also play a role in shaping diversity within ecosystems. By targeting dominant species of bacteria or algae, they prevent any single group from overwhelming others. This regulation, known as kill the winner, ensures that microbial communities remain diverse, with many species coexisting instead of one species monopolizing resources. Diversity, in turn, makes ecosystems more stable and resilient, able to adapt to changing conditions. Thus, viruses act as natural regulators, enforcing balance within communities too small for the eye to see but too important to ignore. In soils, viruses perform similar functions. They infect bacteria and fungi, breaking down their cells and releasing organic matter back into the ground. This process contributes to soil fertility, making nutrients available to plants and other organisms. In agricultural systems, these dynamics affect crop health and productivity, even if unnoticed. In wild environments, they influence the structure of microbial communities that support forests, grasslands, and deserts. Soil viruses are only beginning to be studied in detail, but what is known suggests that they are as central to terrestrial ecosystems as they are to marine ones. Viruses also influence the evolution of life in ecosystems. When they infect cells, they sometimes transfer bits of genetic material from one organism to another. This horizontal gene transfer accelerates evolution, introducing new traits into populations in ways that simple mutation could not achieve alone. Across billions of years, viruses have moved genes between species, shaping metabolic pathways, immune defenses, and even fundamental structures of life. In ecosystems, this constant exchange of genetic material fosters innovation and adaptation, ensuring that organisms can survive changing climates, environments, and pressures. Even in extreme environments, viruses persist. In the icy waters beneath glaciers, in the boiling pools of hot springs, in the salt-saturated flats of deserts, viruses infect extremophile bacteria and archaea, influencing their populations and maintaining balance in habitats where life seems fragile. Their presence in these harsh places suggests that wherever life exists, viruses will be there too, guiding its rhythms and influencing its future. The influence of viruses extends beyond microbes to plants and animals. In plants, some viruses cause disease, but others exist without causing harm, sometimes even offering benefits. Certain plant viruses can enhance drought tolerance or resistance to pests, strengthening the host in challenging environments. In animals, too, viruses can shape populations by influencing immunity and survival. Some viruses may suppress dangerous pathogens, while others encourage genetic diversity by exerting pressure on immune systems. The relationships are complex, not easily reduced to simple categories of good or bad, but reflective of the deep entanglement of viruses with all living systems. In humans, the ecological role of viruses is less visible but still present. Our microbiomes are influenced not only by bacteria but also by bacteriophages, viruses that infect and regulate bacterial populations in our guts and on our skin. These phages shape the balance of microbial communities, affecting digestion, immunity. In this way, viruses are part of the ecology of the body, just as they are part of the ecology of soil, water, and air. Perhaps most strikingly, viruses are reminders of the interconnectedness of all life. They link the smallest microbes with the largest ecosystems, transferring energy, recycling nutrients, and influencing diversity. They act on timescales both immediate, through infection and release, and ancient, through the genetic traces they leave behind. Though often feared, they are indispensable to the functioning of the natural world. Their quiet cycles, as vital as the growth of forests or the migration of animals. To imagine viruses in ecosystems is to picture an endless cycle of creation and transformation. In the oceans, they burst cells open, returning nutrients to the food web. In soils, they shape fertility and diversity. In plants and animals, they influence survival and adaptation. They are everywhere, in countless numbers, carrying out roles that sustain the living world. And though they cannot move, breathe, or reproduce on their own, they are agents of change, inseparably woven into the patterns of nature. As we rest with this awareness, we may find comfort in the thought that even the smallest forms of existence contribute to the whole. Viruses, though invisible and often misunderstood, remind us that ecosystems are not built only by visible creatures but by hidden cycles carried out on microscopic scales. Their work continues in silence, keeping balance, fostering diversity, and ensuring that life on Earth remains interconnected. They are not apart from nature but are part of its foundation, as necessary to the story of life as sunlight, rain, or soil. 12. Ancient origins of bacteria and viruses. To trace the origins of bacteria and viruses is to travel back through time to the earliest chapters of Earth's history, long before animals roamed the land or plants reached toward the sky, long before even the first multicellular organisms. There were microbes. In fact, bacteria were among the very first life forms to appear on the planet, and viruses, though their beginnings are more mysterious, also stretch back to unimaginably ancient times. Their story is not merely a footnote to life, but the very foundation upon which life itself was built. To rest in the thought of their ancient origins is to see the continuity of existence, flowing like an unbroken river from the dawn of Earth to the present day. Scientists believe that life began on Earth around 3.5 to 4 billion years ago. The young planet was a place of extremes, with volcanic activity, intense radiation, and an atmosphere that lacked the oxygen we breathe today. In this harsh environment, simple molecules assembled into more complex forms, eventually giving rise to the first living cells. These earliest organisms were bacteria or bacteria-like cells, prokaryotes without nuclei, small and simple but capable of metabolism and reproduction. They were the pioneers of life, testing the possibilities of chemistry and energy on a planet that was only beginning to settle into stability. Among these ancient bacteria were cyanobacteria, organisms that would transform the Earth in ways more profound than any geological event. Through photosynthesis, they captured energy from sunlight and released oxygen as a byproduct. For millions of years, oxygen accumulated slowly in the atmosphere, eventually reaching levels that allowed the evolution of new forms of life. This event, known as the Great Oxidation, occurred about 2.4 billion years ago and marked a turning point in Earth's history. The atmosphere changed, the oceans changed, and life itself was forever altered. Without cyanobacteria, complex organisms, including humans, might never have arisen. Their tiny, ancient bodies breathed out the oxygen that now fills our lungs, linking our existence directly to their early work. Bacteria also shaped the early Earth through other processes. Some species extracted energy from sulfur or iron, altering the chemistry of their environments. Others contributed to the cycling of nitrogen, establishing pathways that continue to support ecosystems today. Fossil evidence of these ancient microbes can be found in stromatolites, layered rock formations created by microbial mats that grew in shallow waters. These structures, some more than 3 billion years old, stand as monuments to the activity of bacteria, silent records of their persistence through time. The story of viruses, however, is more enigmatic, because they leave little fossil evidence. Their origins are harder to trace, yet scientists propose several possibilities. One idea suggests that viruses arose from pieces of genetic material that broke away from cells long ago, gaining the ability to move between hosts. Another theory suggests that viruses were once more complex cells that lost their independence, becoming streamlined into parasitic particles. Still another proposes that viruses predate modern cells, emerging from the same pool of self-replicating molecules that gave rise to life itself. Whichever path is true, it is clear that viruses are ancient companions of cellular life, evolving alongside bacteria and other organisms for billions of years. What makes viruses particularly fascinating is their role in evolution. From the beginning, they have acted as agents of genetic exchange, moving DNA and RNA between organisms. This constant transfer of genetic material accelerated evolution, introducing new traits and possibilities. The complexity of life today, from immune systems to reproduction, bears the fingerprints of ancient viral activity. Even within the human genome, large portions of DNA are derived from viral sequences, remnants of infections that occurred in the distant past. These sequences, though no longer functioning as viruses, have been repurposed into roles that support our biology. It is remarkable to think that features as fundamental as the placenta, which allows mammals to nourish their young within the womb, depend on genes that originated from viral insertions. The ancient viruses that once infected our ancestors have become part of what makes us who we are. The ancient origins of bacteria and viruses also remind us that life has always been about balance, adaptation, and persistence. Bacteria survived through flexibility, learning to extract energy from light, chemicals, and organic matter in countless ways. Viruses endured by attaching themselves to these living cells, replicating through them, and shaping their genetic destinies. Together, they formed an ongoing dialogue that continues today. The earliest ecosystems were microbial, vast worlds of bacteria and viruses interacting in oceans, lakes, and soils. Larger life forms came later, building on the groundwork these small beings had already established. Looking back across billions of years, one can see bacteria and viruses not as side characters, but as the main architects of Earth's living systems. They prepared the atmosphere, cycled elements, drove evolution, and ensured diversity. They endured mass extinctions, climate shifts, and planetary upheavals that wiped out larger organisms. Yet they survived, as they always do, by reproducing swiftly and adapting constantly. Their resilience is a reminder of the power of simplicity. In their smallness, they found the ability to endure where complexity might fail. In reflecting on these ancient origins, we also find perspective on our place in the world. Humans are recent arrivals, present for only a brief moment in Earth's long story. Bacteria and viruses were here long before us and will likely remain long after. They are the ancient threads that weave through the fabric of life, connecting the distant past with the present and carrying forward into the future. To understand them is to understand something fundamental about life itself, that existence is not only about size or visibility, but about persistence, adaptation, and interconnectedness. As we drift into this thought, it becomes soothing to imagine the early Earth, quiet oceans under a young sun, microbial mats forming on rocks, and invisible viruses moving silently through the waters. No forests, no animals, no humans, only the smallest forms of life, already shaping the destiny of the planet. From those beginnings, every tree, every bird, every human has followed. The story of bacteria and viruses is, in truth, the story of all life, ancient and ongoing, fragile and enduring, connected to the very first stirrings of existence. To know that within us lives the echo of the earliest days of Earth. 13. Surprising benefits of bacteria. When most people think of bacteria, their thoughts often drift toward illness, infections, or the use of antibiotics to fight them. Yet this picture captures only a fraction of the truth. The reality is that bacteria are not primarily enemies but essential allies. They are builders, recyclers, protectors, and quiet helpers that sustain life on Earth in countless ways. For every bacterium that causes harm, there are thousands that support ecosystems, nourish plants, and even keep our bodies in balance. To recognize their surprising benefits is to see them not as villains, but as partners in the grand story of life. One of the most remarkable contributions of bacteria is their role in producing oxygen. Billions of years ago, cyanobacteria transformed the Earth by developing photosynthesis, a process that captures sunlight and releases oxygen as a byproduct. Before this innovation, the Earth's atmosphere lacked significant oxygen, and complex life could not thrive. By releasing oxygen over millions of years, cyanobacteria created the conditions that allowed plants, animals, and eventually humans to exist. Even today, cyanobacteria and other photosynthetic bacteria in oceans continue to produce a large portion of the oxygen we breathe, reminding us that our every breath is linked to their silent labor. Bacteria are also vital to agriculture and plant life. Nitrogen, an essential element for growth, is abundant in the air but unavailable in its gaseous form to most organisms. Certain bacteria possess the unique ability to fix nitrogen, converting it into ammonia and other compounds that plants can use. These bacteria often live in partnership with plant roots, especially in legumes like beans and peas, forming nodules where the exchange takes place. Farmers benefit greatly from this relationship, as it enriches the soil naturally, reducing the need for artificial fertilizers. Even outside these partnerships, soil bacteria constantly recycle nutrients, ensuring that ecosystems remain fertile and productive. Without them, plants would struggle to grow, and the chain of life that depends on them would falter. In the human world, bacteria contribute directly to our diets and our culture through the process of fermentation. For thousands of years, people have harnessed bacteria to preserve and transform foods. Yogurt, cheese, sauerkraut, kimchi, pickles, and sourdough bread all owe their existence to bacterial action. These microbes break down sugars, producing acids or gases that alter flavor, texture, and preservation. In many cases, fermented foods also provide health benefits, delivering live bacteria that support our digestive systems. The tang of yogurt, the richness of cheese, and the crispness of fermented vegetables are, in essence, gifts from the microbial world, woven into human tradition across cultures and centuries. Beyond food, bacteria have been central to medicine. While antibiotics are often used to fight harmful bacteria, it is easy to forget that many of these drugs originate from bacterial processes themselves. The first widely used antibiotic, penicillin, was discovered in mold, but countless others have been derived from bacteria living in soil. These bacteria produce compounds to defend themselves against rivals, and humans have learned to harness these natural chemicals as medicines. In addition, bacteria are now used to produce insulin for diabetes treatment, enzymes for therapy, and even components for vaccines. In laboratories, bacteria serve as tools of genetic engineering, allowing scientists to study genes, produce proteins, and explore new therapies. Thus, bacteria are not only subjects of medicine but creators of it, supporting human health in ways that extend far beyond the microbiome. Their benefits also extend to the environment. Bacteria are natural recyclers, breaking down organic matter and returning elements to the earth. They degrade dead plants and animals, turning them into nutrients that can be reused by new life. Without this constant recycling, ecosystems would drown in their own remains, and the cycles of carbon, nitrogen, and sulfur would grind to a halt. Some bacteria can even degrade pollutants, cleaning up oil spills, breaking down plastics, and neutralizing toxic waste. This ability, known as bioremediation, offers hope for addressing some of the environmental challenges humans face, transforming harmful substances into harmless or useful forms. Bacteria also play a role in protecting us. The communities of microbes that live on our skin and within our bodies form a barrier against invaders, competing with harmful organisms and preventing them from taking hold. In the gut, beneficial bacteria produce substances that inhibit pathogens, maintain a healthy environment, and support immune function. By training the immune system, bacteria help the body learn to respond effectively without overreacting. This balance is delicate, but when it is maintained, it shields us from disease. The very bacteria we once thought of as enemies are, in many cases, our first line of defense. Their surprising benefits also reach into the realm of climate. Some bacteria in the oceans produce compounds that rise into the atmosphere and influence cloud formation. Others regulate greenhouse gases by consuming methane or producing substances that affect atmospheric chemistry. In this way, bacteria help stabilize Earth's climate, linking microscopic activity with planetary systems. They remind us that the health of the atmosphere depends not only on forests and oceans, but also on the hidden work of countless microbes drifting in the water or living in the soil. Even within our own bodies, bacteria influence more than we once imagined. Research has revealed connections between the microbiome and metabolism, mood, and mental health. Certain gut bacteria produce neurotransmitters or influence pathways that connect the gut and the brain. While this field is still being explored, it suggests that bacteria may play a role not only in digestion and immunity, but also in how we feel and think. This is perhaps one of the most surprising benefits of all, that microbes too small to see may shape emotions, behavior, and the workings of the mind. As we reflect on these benefits, it becomes clear that bacteria are not minor characters in the story of life. They are central figures, shaping the environment, supporting ecosystems, influencing human culture, and protecting health. Their presence is not optional, but essential. To imagine a world without bacteria is to imagine a barren planet, devoid of oxygen, nutrients, and balance. Life as we know it would simply not exist. And so, while some bacteria cause harm, it is important to see the larger picture. The vast majority are neutral or beneficial, forming the foundation upon which ecosystems and societies rest. Their benefits surround us in every breath of oxygen, every bite of food, every cycle of nutrients, and every moment of health. They are silent companions, giving far more than they take, sustaining life quietly and endlessly. As we rest with this thought, we can feel a sense of gratitude for these unseen allies. They remind us that the world is not sustained only by what is visible and grand, but also by what is small and hidden. Their benefits are woven into the fabric of life, so constant that we often overlook them. Yet without bacteria, the world would not breathe, plants would not grow, and humans would not thrive. They are, in truth, not only surprising, but indispensable, silent partners in the ongoing miracle of existence. 14. Surprising benefits of viruses. When most people hear the word virus, the first thoughts that arise are often of illness, epidemics, and the quiet spread of unseen threats. Viruses have long been associated with sickness, from the common cold to more serious diseases that have shaped human history. Yet, just as bacteria are not solely agents of harm, but also givers of life, viruses too carry surprising benefits, hidden behind their reputation as enemies. Viruses play roles that support ecosystems, guide evolution, and even contribute directly to human health. To see them only as destructive is to miss the deeper truth that they are woven into the fabric of life, not merely as adversaries but also as contributors. Perhaps the most remarkable benefit of viruses is their influence on evolution. Viruses are experts at moving genetic material between organisms. When they infect, they sometimes leave behind fragments of their own genes or carry pieces of their host's DNA to new cells. This process, known as horizontal gene transfer, allows traits to spread more quickly than mutation alone would permit. Over billions of years, this viral activity has accelerated the diversification of life, introducing new combinations of genes that gave rise to entirely new possibilities. The complexity of immune systems, metabolic pathways, and even reproduction carries echoes of ancient viral exchanges. Without viruses, evolution would likely have proceeded more slowly, and life as we know it might not have taken the same paths. Within the human genome, evidence of viral influence is written clearly. Large sections of our DNA, some estimates suggest nearly 8%, originate from ancient viral infections. These sequences, called endogenous retroviruses, were once part of viruses that inserted themselves into the DNA of our ancestors. Over time, many of these sequences lost their ability to function as viruses, but they were not lost entirely. Instead, some were repurposed by the body for new functions. One such viral gene now plays a key role in the development of the placenta, enabling mammals to sustain their young during pregnancy. Thus, an event that may once have seemed harmful became a cornerstone of mammalian life. In this way, viruses are not only part of our past, but part of what allows us to exist today. Viruses also play a vital role in maintaining ecosystems. In the oceans, they regulate populations of bacteria and plankton, preventing any one group from dominating the ecosystem. This regulation keeps diversity high, ensuring that nutrient cycles remain balanced and that the food web remains stable. By causing the lysis of microbial cells, viruses release nutrients back into the water, where they can be used by other organisms. This process, often called the viral shunt, fuels the growth of phytoplankton, which in turn produce oxygen and feed countless marine species. Without viral activity, the oceans would look very different, and the balance of life they support would be altered dramatically. In soils, viruses perform similar roles. By infecting bacteria and fungi, they influence the turnover of nutrients, contributing to soil fertility and plant growth. Their presence helps shape the structure of microbial communities, ensuring that ecosystems remain dynamic and adaptable. Though invisible, their contribution is immense, linking the smallest cells with the growth of forests, grasslands, and crops. In this way, viruses sustain the very cycles upon which human societies depend. Beyond their ecological roles, viruses are now being harnessed directly for human benefit through medicine. One of the most promising fields is phage therapy, which uses bacteriophages, viruses that infect bacteria, to treat infections. Unlike broad-spectrum antibiotics, which can disrupt beneficial bacteria, phages are highly specific, targeting only the harmful bacteria causing illness. In an era where antibiotic resistance poses a growing challenge, phage therapy offers hope as a precise and effective alternative. Already, it has been used successfully in cases where traditional treatments failed, and research continues to expand its potential. Viruses are also being explored as tools in gene therapy, because they are naturally skilled at entering cells and delivering genetic material. Scientists have adapted them as carriers for therapeutic genes. In this role, viruses are stripped of their harmful properties and used to deliver healthy copies of genes to patients with genetic disorders. Conditions such as certain immune deficiencies, eye diseases, and metabolic disorders have already been treated with viral vectors, with more applications under development. What was once a source of illness has become, through careful guidance, a source of healing. Cancer research, too, has found surprising uses for viruses. Oncolytic viruses are specially engineered or naturally occurring viruses that preferentially infect and kill cancer cells while leaving healthy cells largely unharmed. As they replicate within tumors, they not only destroy malignant cells but also stimulate the immune system to recognize and attack the cancer. This dual effect offers a promising avenue for therapies that harness the destructive power of viruses for beneficial ends. In this context, the very qualities that once caused fear are transformed into allies against disease. Even in their natural interactions with the immune system, viruses provide unexpected benefits. Exposure to viruses trains immune defenses, teaching the body how to respond to threats. In some cases, mild viral infections may strengthen immunity against more serious challenges. There is also evidence that certain viral infections can modulate the immune system in ways that reduce the risk of autoimmune diseases, where the body mistakenly attacks itself. Though research is ongoing, these findings suggest that viruses may play a role not only in shaping immunity, but in balancing it, helping to prevent both vulnerability and overreaction. The relationship between viruses and life is not one of constant conflict, but of balance and integration. They are part of the checks and balances of ecosystems, part of the engines of evolution, and increasingly part of the future of medicine. While their presence can cause suffering, it can also bring resilience, diversity, and even healing. To see them clearly is to move beyond fear and recognize their complexity. It is humbling to realize that even the smallest viral particle, carrying only a few genes inside a protein shell, can leave such a profound mark on life. They are not alive in the traditional sense, yet their influence shapes the living world. They remind us that significance is not measured in size or complexity, but in impact. Viruses, though often hidden and feared, are essential contributors to the story of existence. As we reflect on these surprising benefits, we can imagine the world in a gentler light. Viruses drift in the oceans, regulating balance. They whisper through our genes, leaving traces of ancient history. They are being guided by human hands toward therapies that may heal. They are part of the quiet harmony of life, not separate from it. To rest with this awareness is to feel a sense of connection, not only to the visible world, but also to the invisible forces that sustain it. Viruses, so often misunderstood, are in truth not only challenges to overcome, but companions in the long journey of life. The immune system's dance. Within the human body, there is a constant, quiet performance taking place, a dance between life and the tiny entities that enter it. Every breath, every sip of water, every touch of a surface brings bacteria and viruses into contact with us. Most of these encounters pass unnoticed, for the body has developed a remarkable system of defense. The immune system. To think of immunity is to imagine not a violent struggle but a delicate choreography, a balance between attack and tolerance, vigilance and restraint. This dance is one of the most intricate and essential processes in biology, a silent guardian that keeps us safe, while also learning, adapting, and remembering. The immune system begins with barriers. The skin, with its protective layers and resident bacteria, forms the first line of defense. It is a wall that keeps most microbes out, though not by being sterile, but by maintaining balance with its own microbial companions. Within the body, mucous membranes in the nose, throat, and lungs trap particles, while cilia sweep them away. Acids in the stomach dissolve many of the microbes that reach it, creating an environment where only the most adapted bacteria can survive. These barriers are passive yet active, not only blocking entry but also providing signals that alert deeper defenses when breaches occur. When a bacterium or virus manages to cross these barriers, the innate immune system responds. This is the body's immediate, non-specific defense, acting quickly against any perceived intruder. Specialized cells known as macrophages patrol the body, engulfing bacteria and viruses in a process called phagocytosis. Neutrophils rush to the site of infection, releasing enzymes that neutralize threats. Natural killer cells target cells that have already been infected by viruses, destroying them before they can release more particles. These cells act without hesitation, relying on ancient patterns of recognition that identify broad features common to many microbes. Yet the immune system is more than a blunt response. It is an intricate dance of signals and coordination. Chemical messengers called cytokines act as the music of this dance, guiding immune cells to sites of infection, stimulating them to act, and calming them when the danger has passed. This constant communication ensures that the response is neither too weak nor too strong, for imbalance can lead to harm. Inflammation, for instance, is part of this process, a swelling, warming, and reddening of tissues as blood flow increases and immune cells gather. Though uncomfortable, it is a sign that the body is actively engaging with the invader, attempting to restore balance. The adaptive immune system adds another layer of elegance to this choreography. Unlike the innate system, it is specific, targeting particular bacteria and viruses with precision. Central to this system are lymphocytes, B cells, and T cells. B cells produce antibodies, proteins that bind specifically to parts of microbes or their toxins, marking them for destruction or blocking their function. T cells, on the other hand, recognize infected cells directly. Some T cells destroy these compromised cells, while others coordinate the overall response, ensuring that different parts of the immune system work together. One of the most remarkable qualities of the adaptive immune system is its memory. Once it has encountered a bacterium or virus, it remembers it. Memory B cells and memory T cells linger long after the infection has passed, ready to respond swiftly if the same invader returns. This memory explains why many illnesses, once experienced, do not recur or recur in milder forms. It is also the principle behind vaccines, which introduce harmless versions of microbes or their components to train the immune system without causing disease. In this way, the immune system learns from experience, becoming stronger and more refined with each encounter. But the immune system's dance is not only about defense, it is also about tolerance. Every day, the body is exposed to countless microbes that are harmless or even beneficial. The immune system must learn not to overreact to these companions, for attacking them unnecessarily would create chaos. Similarly, it must distinguish between self and non-self, avoiding attacks on the body's own tissues. When this balance is lost, autoimmune diseases may arise, in which the immune system mistakenly turns against the self it is meant to protect. This delicate balance reveals the wisdom of the system. It is not simply a warrior, but also a mediator, striving to maintain harmony within the body. Bacteria and viruses play a role in shaping this balance. Exposure to microbes trains the immune system, teaching it how to distinguish threat from friend. Children raised in environments rich with microbial diversity often develop more resilient immune systems, less prone to overreaction. The presence of bacteria in the gut, the skin, and other surfaces provides a constant stream of signals that help the immune system calibrate itself. Viruses, too, contribute, sometimes through direct infections that challenge the body to adapt, and sometimes through genetic remnants that influence immune function. The immune system's dance is therefore not performed alone. It is guided by the very microbes it must learn to manage. There is also beauty in the way the immune system scales its response. Against a mild infection, it acts quietly, sending small groups of cells to restore order. Against greater threats, it mobilizes armies, releasing cascades of cytokines and producing waves of antibodies. Yet when the threat is gone, it withdraws, calming the body, repairing tissues, and returning to balance. This ability to escalate and then retreat reflects the intelligence of the system. It is not mindless aggression but measured choreography, responding to the rhythm of life with adaptability and care. From an evolutionary perspective, the immune system is a living record of interactions between humans, bacteria, and viruses. Over countless generations, each encounter has shaped its abilities. The presence of microbes has been both challenge and teacher, honing immune defenses into the complex system we carry today. It is a reminder that survival is not about isolation but about dialogue, about the constant communication between the body and the microbial world. To think of the immune system in this way is to see it as a dance, not a battle. It is a rhythm of recognition, response, and recovery, a balance of strength and restraint. It listens, it learns, and it remembers. It protects us not by shutting the world out, but by engaging with it, discerning what to resist and what to accept. As we rest with this image, we may find reassurance in the quiet constancy of this system. Every moment, without our awareness, it moves gracefully through its steps, shielding us from harm while keeping peace with the countless microbes that share our lives. It is one of nature's most elegant creations, a dance choreographed over billions of years, performed silently within us, sustaining the delicate harmony of life. 16. Bacteria and viruses in symbiosis. When we think of bacteria and viruses together, our thoughts often drift toward conflict. We imagine viruses attacking bacteria, infecting them, and using them as hosts for replication. This is indeed common. For bacteriophages, viruses that specifically target bacteria are abundant in nature. Yet the relationship between bacteria and viruses is not always one of destruction. In some cases, it is more complex, more subtle, and even cooperative. Symbiosis, a term that describes living together for mutual benefit, or at least close association, also applies to the unseen world of microbes and their viral companions. To reflect on this hidden symbiosis is to uncover a quieter truth, that even entities as small as bacteria and viruses are capable of forming relationships that shape life in surprising and enduring ways. Bacteriophages, or phages, provide the clearest window into these relationships. They are viruses that infect bacteria, inserting their genetic material into the bacterial cell. Often, this leads to the destruction of the host, as the virus replicates and bursts the cell open to release new viral particles. Yet sometimes, the relationship takes a different turn. Instead of immediately destroying the bacterium, the phage integrates its DNA into the bacterial genome, becoming what is called a prophage. In this state, the viral genes lie dormant, carried quietly within the bacterium as it continues to live and reproduce. Every time the bacterium divides, it copies not only its own DNA but also the viral DNA, passing it on to its descendants. This is the lysogenic cycle, a form of coexistence where the virus persists within the bacterium without causing immediate harm. This integration is more than passive. In many cases, the presence of prophages provides benefits to the bacteria themselves. Some prophages carry genes that give their bacterial hosts new abilities, such as resistance to toxins or antibiotics, or the ability to produce substances that enhance survival. For instance, certain strains of bacteria that cause disease in humans do so only because prophages have given them the genes to produce toxins. While this may be harmful from a human perspective, it is advantageous for the bacteria, allowing them to compete and thrive in environments where they might otherwise fail. In this way, viruses can become sources of innovation for bacteria, donating genetic tools that change their behavior and capabilities. This phenomenon, known as lysogenic conversion, demonstrates how viruses and bacteria can form partnerships rather than mere conflicts. The The bacterium gains new traits, while the virus gains a stable home, avoiding the risks of immediate destruction. The relationship may persist for long periods, until environmental triggers awaken the virus, shifting it back into the lytic cycle of active replication. Even then, the symbiosis has left its mark, for the bacterial lineage carries with it the influence of viral genes. This interplay shows that bacteria and viruses are not simply locked in a battle, but also entwined in a dialogue of exchange and adaptation. Beyond prophages, viruses also shape bacterial communities through regulation. By infecting certain strains more than others, they control bacterial populations, ensuring that diversity is maintained. This regulation benefits the community as a whole, preventing dominance by any single strain and allowing multiple species to coexist. In return, bacteria evolve defenses against viral infection, such as the CRISPR-Cas system, which provides them with a form of immune memory. Interestingly, humans have adapted this bacterial defense mechanism into powerful genetic tools, showing how the symbiosis between bacteria and viruses extends even into human innovation. The push and pull between bacteria and viruses, though often framed as conflict, creates a balance that stabilizes microbial communities across ecosystems. There are also cases where bacteria and viruses form associations that benefit larger organisms. In some marine environments, bacteria infected with certain viruses show enhanced photosynthetic activity, increasing the production of organic matter that supports ocean food webs. The virus, by adding genes that supplement bacterial metabolism, boosts its host's ability to capture energy, while ensuring that the host remains productive and thus capable of supporting viral replication. This partnership radiates outward, influencing not only microbes but entire ecosystems, for the energy produced feeds plankton, fish, and the vast chains of life in the sea. In the human body, similar dynamics may unfold. The bacteriophages within the gut are not merely predators of bacteria, they are also regulators, keeping bacterial populations balanced and diverse. By limiting the growth of certain strains, they indirectly support the health of the host, preventing harmful bacteria from overwhelming beneficial ones. Some phages may even protect humans directly by targeting dangerous bacteria, forming an invisible shield within the microbiome. This quiet alliance illustrates how viruses, though incapable of independent life, can contribute to symbiosis within the larger context of human health. The relationship between bacteria and viruses also reflects the creativity of evolution. Instead of seeing viruses as external invaders, it is possible to see them as participants in the broader microbial network, constantly exchanging genes, influencing survival, and shaping adaptation. Bacteria, in turn, have evolved ways to integrate, tolerate, and even benefit from viral presence. The result is a mosaic of interactions that is neither wholly hostile nor wholly cooperative, but something more nuanced, a continuum of possibilities that shift depending on environment, circumstance, and need. In reflecting on these symbioses, one can see how deeply interconnected life truly is. No organism exists in isolation. Even bacteria, among the simplest of life forms, are influenced and altered by viruses. Viruses, which cannot survive alone, weave themselves into bacterial lineages, ecosystems, and even human innovation. Their interactions ripple outward, influencing everything from the fertility of soil to the health of oceans, from the resilience of the microbiome to the tools used in genetic research. To imagine bacteria and viruses in symbiosis is to picture not enemies locked in endless battle, but partners dancing in a shifting rhythm of give and take. Sometimes the dance is destructive, ending in the bursting of cells. Sometimes it is peaceful, with viral genes sleeping quietly within bacterial hosts. Sometimes it is unexpectedly creative, producing new traits, new metabolisms, and new balances that support life, Always, it is dynamic, a reminder that even at the smallest scales, life is not fixed but flowing, not isolated but shared. As we rest with this awareness, it becomes clear that bacteria and viruses, though often hidden from view, are teachers of interconnectedness. Their symbioses show us that cooperation and conflict are not separate but interwoven, that survival often comes through unexpected partnerships, and that even the smallest entities can create balance within the vast web of life. To think of them in this way is to find calm in the complexity, knowing that beneath the surface of the world, countless tiny alliances are unfolding, sustaining life in ways both surprising and profound. 17. The fragile balance of microbial life. To picture the world of bacteria and viruses is to imagine a balance so delicate that even the smallest shifts can ripple outward with great consequence. Microbes, though tiny and often unseen, live in relationships of constant interaction, sometimes cooperative, sometimes competitive, sometimes quietly neutral. Within this living web, equilibrium is everything. If one group grows too strong, it can overwhelm others. If one population collapses, the effects can cascade through ecosystems, altering the flow of nutrients, the health of plants and animals, and even the stability of climates. The balance of microbial life is fragile, yet it is also resilient, sustained by countless subtle adjustments that take place in every soil, ocean, and living body. Consider the human microbiome as an example of this delicate equilibrium. Within the intestines, trillions of bacteria live in dense communities, shaping digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Under normal circumstances, beneficial species thrive, competing with harmful ones and producing substances that maintain balance. But if antibiotics disrupt this harmony, killing not only pathogens but also helpful bacteria, problems may arise. Harmful species may take advantage of the gap, leading to infections or inflammation. Restoring balance then becomes essential, whether through diet, probiotics, or simply allowing time for beneficial bacteria to return. What this reveals is that the health of the microbiome does not depend on the absence of microbes but on the proper proportions of them, a balance that must be maintained with care. In natural ecosystems, the same principle applies. In soils, bacteria recycle nutrients, decomposing organic matter and returning elements to the earth. Viruses regulate bacterial populations, preventing dominance by a single group. If these dynamics shift, fertility may decline, plants may suffer, and entire food chains may be affected. In oceans, bacteria and viruses regulate the cycling of carbon, nitrogen, and other elements, shaping both local ecosystems and global climate. Here, balance ensures productivity and diversity, while imbalance can lead to harmful algal blooms or the collapse of critical species. The vastness of these environments may make them seem stable, but in truth they are always shifting, adjusting to maintain a balance that is both fragile and vital. The immune system itself reflects this delicate dance. It must respond strongly enough to fight harmful bacteria and viruses, but not so strongly that it harms the body or destroys beneficial microbes. Autoimmune diseases arise when this balance is lost, and the immune system mistakes the self for the enemy. Allergies, too, can be seen as a misstep in this choreography, an overreaction to harmless substances. Balance, again, is the key. The immune system must walk a fine line between vigilance and tolerance, between protection and peace. On a planetary scale, the balance of microbial life influences climate and the stability of ecosystems. Cyanobacteria in the oceans produce oxygen and fix carbon, regulating the atmosphere. Methanogenic bacteria in wetlands release methane, a powerful greenhouse gas, while other bacteria consume it, helping to stabilize its levels. Viruses recycle nutrients by breaking open microbial cells, ensuring that elements remain in circulation rather than locked away. If these processes shift through warming, pollution, or other disturbances, the balance of gases in the atmosphere may change, influencing temperatures and weather patterns. In this way, the stability of the planet is tied intimately to the stability of its microbial inhabitants. The fragility of microbial balance can also be seen in agriculture. Soils rich in microbial diversity support healthy crops, while depleted soils struggle to sustain life. Overuse of fertilizers, pesticides, and monoculture planting can disrupt these microbial communities, reducing fertility and making plants more vulnerable to disease. In turn, farmers must find ways to restore balance, whether through crop rotation, organic amendments, or the use of beneficial microbes. The lesson is consistent. When balance is lost, resilience declines, but when it is maintained, life flourishes. Yet, for all its fragility, microbial balance is also astonishingly resilient. Ecosystems disrupted by fire, flood, or human activity often recover, in part because microbes return quickly, re-establishing cycles of decomposition and nutrient flow. In the human body, microbiomes often heal after illness or antibiotics, rebuilding their diversity and function over time. This resilience arises from the vast numbers and rapid reproduction of microbes, which allow them to adapt swiftly to new conditions. Even when balance falters, it can be restored, guided by the quiet persistence of microbial life. The fragile balance of microbes also reveals an important truth about life, that health, stability, and survival are rarely about eliminating all threats. Instead, they are about coexistence, about allowing many different forms of life to share space without one overwhelming the others. In the gut, harmful bacteria may exist in small numbers, kept in check by beneficial ones. In soils and oceans, viruses may constantly kill microbes, yet this destruction feeds cycles of renewal. What may look like conflict is, in fact, part of a greater balance, where life and death are woven together into a continuous rhythm. As humans, we are part of this balance. Our actions influence microbial communities through the way we cultivate land, release pollutants, or use medicines. Each choice ripples outward, sometimes supporting balance, sometimes disrupting it. Recognizing this connection invites a gentler view of our relationship with the microbial world. Rather than seeing microbes only as enemies to eradicate, we can see them as partners whose balance sustains us. To support their equilibrium is to support our own health and the health of the planet. To rest with this thought is to find a kind of calm. Life is fragile, but it is also resilient. Microbes show us this with clarity. Their balance sustains oceans, forests, soils, and bodies. When it falters, the consequences remind us of their importance. When it holds, it creates harmony that allows all of life to thrive. The microbial world is a quiet teacher, reminding us that survival is not about dominance but about balance, not about isolation but about interconnectedness. In the end, the fragile balance of microbial life is the balance of life itself. It is the harmony that allows the earth to breathe, ecosystems to flourish, and human bodies to remain well. To understand this is to appreciate the quiet work of bacteria and viruses, endlessly adjusting, endlessly maintaining, endlessly sustaining. Their dance of balance is the foundation of the living world. Fragile in moments yet enduring across the ages, a reminder that even the smallest beings are central to the great symphony of existence. The future of studying microbes. The study of bacteria and viruses has already transformed the way we understand life, health, and ecosystems. From the discovery of the microbiome to the development of antibiotics and vaccines, our knowledge of microbes has shaped medicine, agriculture, and even our sense of identity as humans. Yet this journey is far from over. In many ways, it is only just beginning. As technology advances and new questions arise, the future of studying microbes promises to open doors to discoveries that may reshape our world in ways we cannot yet fully imagine. To think of this future is to glimpse a horizon of possibility, where the smallest forms of life hold answers to some of the greatest challenges we face. One of the most exciting areas lies in the continued exploration of the microbiome. Already, scientists have revealed that the bacteria living in our gut, on our skin, and throughout our bodies play essential roles in health, influencing everything from digestion to mood. Yet this field is still in its early stages. Future research may uncover precise ways to tailor microbiomes for health, creating personalized treatments based on an individual's unique microbial profile. Instead of one-size-fits-all medicine, therapies could be designed to restore balance in each person's microbial community, preventing disease before it begins or supporting recovery in more natural and sustainable ways. Viruses, too, are entering a new chapter of study, no longer seen only as enemies but as tools and partners. In medicine, the use of viral vectors in gene therapy is already bringing hope to people with rare genetic conditions, and research continues to expand into areas such as cancer treatment and regenerative medicine. The future may see viruses re-engineered to deliver targeted treatments directly to diseased cells, sparing healthy tissue and reducing side effects. In this vision, viruses become precision instruments of healing, their natural ability to enter cells turned toward beneficial ends. The fight against antibiotic resistance also points to a future where microbes guide innovation. As bacteria evolve resistance to existing drugs, phage therapy using bacteriophages to target harmful bacteria is gaining renewed attention. In the coming decades, phage libraries could be developed, containing vast collections of viruses that can be matched to specific infections. These therapies could be adapted in real time, evolving alongside bacterial resistance in a way that traditional antibiotics cannot. Such approaches remind us that the answers to microbial challenges may themselves be found in the microbial world. Beyond medicine, the study of microbes is opening new doors in environmental science. Bacteria and viruses play critical roles in ecosystems, regulating nutrient cycles, supporting plant growth, and influencing climate. Future research may allow us to harness these processes more directly, using microbes to restore degraded soils, clean polluted waters, or capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Already, scientists are exploring ways to use bacteria to break down plastics, neutralize toxins, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Viruses, too, may be studied for their role in regulating microbial populations that influence global climate. In the face of environmental challenges, the microbial world may hold solutions that align with the natural rhythms of life. The future also holds the promise of discovering new microbes in places we have not yet explored. Deep oceans, polar ice, deserts, and even the upper atmosphere harbor microbial life that remains largely unknown. Advances in sequencing technology allow us to study the genetic material of these organisms without needing to grow them in laboratories, opening windows into worlds once hidden. Each discovery adds to our understanding of diversity, resilience, and adaptation. Some of these microbes may even provide clues to the origins of life, helping us understand how simple molecules became living cells billions of years ago. In addition to Earth, the study of microbes extends outward to the possibility of life beyond our planet. Because bacteria and viruses thrive in extreme environments, they are often considered models for what life might look like on Mars, Europa, or other celestial bodies. The search for microbial life in space is not only a scientific quest but also a philosophical one, reminding us that life may be more widespread and resilient than we once imagined. Future missions may one day confirm the existence of microbial life elsewhere, transforming our understanding of biology and our place in the universe. Ethics will also play a role in the future of studying microbes, as we gain the ability to edit genes, design microbial communities, and engineer viruses for beneficial purposes. Questions of safety, responsibility, and unintended consequences will grow. The same tools that allow healing and restoration could also cause harm if misused. Balancing innovation with caution will be essential, ensuring that the dance between humanity and the microbial world continues in harmony rather than discord. Education and awareness will likewise shape this future. The more we learn about microbes, the more we see that they are not merely threats but partners. Shifting public perception away from fear and toward appreciation will be important in embracing the benefits of microbes while managing their risks. This cultural shift may mirror what has already happened with bacteria. Once viewed only as dangerous, they are now recognized as vital companions. Viruses may undergo a similar transformation, seen not just as enemies but as part of life's ongoing balance. As we look ahead, one theme becomes clear. The future of studying microbes is not about erasing them from our world, but about learning to live with them more wisely. Bacteria and viruses will always be part of life, shaping ecosystems, health, and evolution. Our task is to understand them more deeply, to recognize their complexity, and to harness their potential in ways that support balance and well-being. To imagine this future is to see a horizon filled with promise. Personalized medicine guided by microbiomes, viruses turned into tools of healing, bacteria cleaning the environment, and the possibility of discovering life beyond Earth. All of these visions arise from studying the smallest forms of life. They remind us that the greatest transformations often come from the most unexpected places, from entities so small that we cannot see them without aid. As we rest with this thought, it becomes clear that microbes are not only part of the past and present, but also of the future. Their study will continue to reveal mysteries, inspire innovations, and shape the destiny of life on Earth and beyond. The future of microbes is, in truth, the future of life itself, a story that continues to unfold in every breath, every drop of water, and every grain of soil. To understand them is to walk forward with curiosity and humility, knowing that in their smallness lies the key to some of the greatest questions of existence. 19. Reflections on the hidden world. As we come to reflect upon the hidden world of bacteria and viruses, it is natural to pause and consider the vastness of what has been revealed. These entities, too small to be seen with the naked eye, shape every aspect of existence, from the air we breathe to the oceans that span the globe, from the soils beneath our feet to the very cells of our bodies. They are constant companions, though often unnoticed, living in symbiosis with us, sometimes challenging us with illness, and other times sustaining us with quiet benefits. To reflect upon their world is to step into a place of humility, wonder, and calm, knowing that life is more interconnected and more subtle than it appears. The hidden world reminds us that smallness does not mean insignificance. A single bacterium or virus may seem powerless when viewed in isolation, yet their combined influence is immeasurable. Bacteria created the oxygen-rich atmosphere we depend on. Viruses have guided evolution, leaving traces in our DNA that shape who we are. In ecosystems, their interactions regulate balance, recycle nutrients, and sustain diversity. The weight of their presence is far greater than their size would suggest. It is a reminder that power is not always measured in visibility or strength, but in persistence and quiet influence. There is also a lesson of resilience in this hidden world. Bacteria have endured for billions of years, surviving mass extinctions, climate shifts, and geological upheavals. Viruses, though not alive in the traditional sense, persisted alongside them, adapting and evolving in step with the life they infect. Together, they embody the principle of survival through change. reminding us that life is not about permanence but about flexibility. In their constant adaptation, they show us how resilience is built, not through rigidity, but through the ability to bend, to shift, and to find new ways of being. At the same time, the hidden world speaks to the fragility of balance. In the human body, harmony between microbes maintains health, while imbalance can lead to illness. In nature, bacterial and viral cycles keep ecosystems stable, but disruptions, whether through human actions or natural events, can cause cascading effects. This fragility is not a weakness, but a reminder of interconnectedness. Every element relies on others, and balance is sustained only when the whole is respected. In reflecting on this, we are reminded that our own well-being is tied to the health of the microbial world, and through it, to the health of the planet. There is also a beauty in the creativity of their interactions. Bacteria and viruses do not live in isolation, but in constant dialogue, exchanging genes, shaping defenses, and forming symbiotic relationships. Sometimes this dialogue produces illness, but at other times it produces innovation, new traits, new abilities, new forms of life. The very diversity of the living world owes much to this creative interplay. What seems destructive on one level often leads to renewal on another, a cycle of endings and beginnings woven into the fabric of life. Reflecting on the hidden world also reveals how much remains unknown. For every bacterium or virus studied, countless others remain undiscovered, living in oceans, soils, and even within us. Their diversity is immense, their potential roles vast. Some may hold keys to new medicines, others to solutions for environmental challenges. Still others may carry clues to the origins of life itself, or to the possibility of life beyond Earth. The hidden world is not only a place of answers but also of questions, inviting curiosity and humility as we continue to explore. In contemplating bacteria and viruses, we also see a mirror of ourselves. They remind us that we are not separate from the natural world, but part of it, shaped by forces that existed long before humans appeared. The bacteria in our bodies connect us to ancient lineages stretching back billions of years. The viral sequences in our DNA are reminders of encounters that shaped not just individuals but species. To reflect on these truths is to recognize that individuality is an illusion. Each of us is a community, an ecosystem in miniature, living in constant interaction with the unseen world around us. Perhaps the deepest reflection is one of humility. In modern life, it is easy to believe that humans dominate the planet, shaping landscapes, controlling technology, and building civilizations. Yet the hidden world shows us that control is an illusion. It is microbes that sustain the atmosphere, regulate ecosystems, and guide evolution. Without them, life would falter. With them, life endures. They remind us that we are not masters of the earth, but participants in its balance, reliant on forces too small to see, but too great to escape. And yet, alongside humility, there is comfort. To know that bacteria and viruses have persisted for billions of years is to feel the continuity of life, stretching far beyond individual lives or human history. They are companions across time, present at the dawn of life, and still present now, guiding the unfolding of existence. Their constancy provides perspective, a sense of being part of something greater, older, and more enduring than ourselves. It is a reminder that life continues, adapting, flowing, and persisting, no matter the challenges it faces. As we rest with these reflections, the hidden world becomes not a place of fear, but of peace. Its rhythms are steady, its balance both fragile and enduring, its lessons subtle yet profound. Bacteria and viruses remind us that small things matter, that resilience comes through change, that balance sustains life, and that humility opens us to wonder. In their presence, we are reminded that existence is not only about what is seen, but also about what is hidden. not only about strength, but also about persistence. The hidden world is always with us, within us, and around us. In every breath, every drop of water, every grain of soil. To reflect upon it is to step into a quiet awareness, one that calms the mind and opens the heart. For in knowing the unseen, we know more fully the seen. In honoring the small, we honor the great. And in embracing the hidden, we embrace the whole of life, finding peace in the interconnectedness that binds all beings, visible and invisible, into one great and enduring story. 20. Closing thoughts on life's smallest companions. As we reach the end of this journey through the world of bacteria and viruses, it is natural to linger for a moment in stillness, letting the vastness of what has been uncovered settle into place. We have traveled through their origins, their structures, their roles in health and disease, their presence in ecosystems, and their surprising benefits. We have seen them not only as agents of illness, but also as partners in balance, innovation, and resilience. To close, then, is not to end their story, for their story continues endlessly. Rather, it is to rest with a deeper appreciation of life's smallest companions, those unseen presences that have shaped the earth and continue to dwell within and around us every day. Bacteria, simple in form yet boundless in diversity, remind us of life's persistence. From the earliest days of Earth, they have endured, finding ways to thrive in heat, cold, salt, and darkness. They breathe out oxygen, fix nitrogen, recycle nutrients, and sustain ecosystems. They live in soils, in oceans, in deserts, in ice, and in our own bodies. They have taught us that simplicity can be powerful, that survival does not require complexity but adaptability. Their lives may be measured in hours, yet their influence spans billions of years. They are not only survivors but creators, shaping the atmosphere, the land, and even the biology of the beings who now contemplate them. Viruses, mysterious and elusive, remind us of life's interconnectedness, not alive in the way bacteria are, yet not wholly separate from life. They exist on the edge of definition, requiring others to complete their cycles. They slip into cells, replicate, and move on, shaping evolution through their constant exchanges of genetic material. They regulate microbial populations, recycle nutrients, and influence diversity. Within our own DNA, their ancient traces remain, silent reminders of past encounters that gave rise to new possibilities. They may cause illness, but they also guide adaptation, and increasingly, they are becoming tools of healing. In their strangeness, they show us that life is not bound by clear lines but flows across boundaries, blurring the distinction between self and other, between living and non-living. Together, bacteria and viruses form a hidden foundation upon which all life rests. Their interactions sustain the balance of ecosystems, influence climate, and shape the course of evolution. Within us, they form part of who we are, both as active companions in our microbiomes and as silent echoes within our genes. Their world is not separate from ours but interwoven with it, a reminder that no life exists in isolation. To understand them is to understand ourselves more fully, for we are not solitary beings but communities, ecosystems in miniature, living in constant dialogue with the unseen. The closing thought, then, is one of gratitude for the oxygen we breathe, for the food that grows in soils enriched by microbial work, for the balance of ecosystems, for the resilience of life itself. We owe much to these smallest of companions. Even in illness, they remind us of the delicate balance that sustains health, and in their benefits, they remind us of the quiet generosity of life. Their presence calls us to humility, to recognize that greatness does not come only from size or strength, but from persistence, connection, and contribution. There is also comfort in their constancy. Bacteria and viruses were here long before humans, and they will be here long after. They are part of the enduring fabric of life, shaping the earth across time in ways both subtle and profound. To reflect upon them is to feel connected not only to the present but to the deep past and the distant future, part of an unbroken chain of existence that continues beyond individual lives. Their constancy offers perspective, reminding us that while human concerns may feel immense, they are but moments in the larger rhythm of life sustained by microbes. As we bring this reflection to rest, we may imagine the hidden world as a quiet companion, always near, always active, always shaping the course of existence. In the soil, bacteria decompose and renew. In the oceans, viruses regulate and recycle. In our bodies, microbes sustain health, balance, and connection. They move silently, unseen, yet their presence is constant, their influence vast. To acknowledge them is to see the world more clearly, to recognize that life's foundation is not built on the visible alone, but on the invisible, the small, the persistent. Closing does not mean forgetting, for the story of bacteria and viruses continues with every breath and every heartbeat. It continues in the rhythms of ecosystems, in the resilience of evolution, in the constancy of cycles that sustain the earth. To rest in this awareness is to feel a sense of calm, knowing that life endures not because of grandeur but because of balance, not because of dominance but because of cooperation, not because of isolation but because of interconnectedness. Life's smallest companions remind us of the beauty of what is unseen, the power of what is simple, and the harmony of what is balanced. They teach us that resilience lies in adaptation, that strength lies in cooperation, and that significance lies not in visibility, but in contribution. To carry these lessons forward is to walk more gently in the world, more aware of the hidden foundations that support us, more grateful for the companions that sustain us, and more humble in the face of life's enduring mystery. And so, we close, not with an end, but with a quiet acknowledgement. The hidden world of bacteria and viruses continues, unseen yet ever present, ancient yet always new. They are life's smallest companions, and they are also life's greatest teachers. To know them is to see life itself more clearly, and to rest with them is to find peace in the knowledge that we are never alone, for the smallest beings have always been, and will always be, with us.